What's going on, everybody? Cali Death Podcast back once again, episode 99. I am Anthony, your host. I'm here with my resident homies as always. We got the full four, not trifecta. Trifecta would be three. What would be four? What do you call that?
The quadternity.
There you go.
Yeah.
We got the quadternity of homies.
Quadternity, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Joel,
the trifecta.
Now, but actually, with me in there, it's the quintessence.
There you go, dude.
Oh,
there we
go.
We got the quintessence
like
here, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Joel, Joseph, and Casey with me. What up, y'all?
Hi, Anthony.
Hi, guys. And tonight we're joined by the great Colin Davis from Vile, dude. Got a true OG Cali Death podcast situation going on right now.
Fuck yeah.
Thanks for having me, dudes.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. Real quick, I actually am excited to say that we're gonna do some plugs. Battleforge Coffee, they got a Happy National Coffee Day sale thing going on until October 1st. Yep,
nice.
20% off your entire order. The coupon code is FIRSTOFF20. So all that together in the coupon code area, you get yourself 20% off.
Mike Hamilton's involved in that, right?
Yeah, dude, it's the Deeds dudes. You know that.
Wow.
And Deeds and Mike obviously played in Vile, and he's an OG.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Deeds played in Vile.
Yep.
That's true. That's true.
Oh yeah, dude. And
Very true.
again, I'll say that we'll eventually have some new information on merch. Oh, what up? Yeah. Hey, what is that one shirt that you have left over?
There you go.
No,
I think you're muted there.
I know. I just fixed it. Last of the original run. It's a small.
Submarine.
Anyone wants it? Even honestly, let's just say, dude, if anyone wants a small, I'll just pay $5 for shipping. I'll send it to you if anyone wants to wear a small.
There you go, dude. Take that.
Last
I
one.
thought we were sold out.
How many death metal dudes can fit into a small?
I know.
I
mean, we've sold the other smalls so far. So.
Oh yes.
Yep. And
Dan
we'll print
Eggers
more.
could fit into it. I know that.
Yeah. Really?
Tightly.
Dan from Odious, we toured with Colin and Vile and all that. That we have so many great stories to tell tonight. It's going to be a great campfire episode, and we're going to hear all about Vile tonight. But yeah, I'm talking about the guitarist from Odious. Where he wore some really tight shirts, but he looked good in them. But he can only pull it off. It's hard to do, dude.
Right.
Anyways, what's up, Colin? Stoked to see you, homie.
Yeah, you too, Casey.
Well, real quick, let's get some plugs for Vile and all that stuff. Where can people go online and get some merch or information from you?
Well, I have to make some merch actually. So I'll have some for this show. We're doing a show November 19th. There's a Death Fest in Houston, and I should definitely have the link to that, shouldn't I? But it's best thing to do for that is just go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Colin Davis Metal Master. So if you go there, then scroll down a couple. The link to the Death Fest is there. And so I'll have merch for that, and then I'll have leftover for that I can sell. But at the moment, I don't have anything. I do have a bunch of merch, but it's back in California in storage.
Okay.
And then you can go to the website, the current website for Vile, which is vilewarriors.com. Vilewarriors.com. Yeah. And so you'll have to wait.
You guys got a Bandcamp or anything like that too?
No
No
Bandcamp. Not gonna mess with that. I did Bandcamp for another project, but we're just keeping it simple right now.
Right on, dude.
Yeah.
Cool. Go check that out, guys.
Nice.
And real quick, if you're listening to this and you are not involved with Twitch, you could be here live with us right now in the future episodes if you come to our twitch.tv. What is it? Twitch.tv/Cali Death Podcast. Boom. There you go. And you could be in here hanging out in the chat, throwing us some questions, comments, whatever.
What is Twitch? Can you explain to me what Twitch is? This is the first time I've been in here.
I'll do a I don't really know too much about it other than it started as like a video game type deal where you could go on and watch people play video games.
Exactly. But, I remember that now.
Yes. Over some time it became, it expanded into, musicians. And I don't know how much of the percentages podcasts too, but we just saw a lot of musicians that would do, live streams and do some really fun stuff and a lot of them are from the metal community too. So we kind of just wanted to jump in the pool and see how it was, and we've been having a great time with it so far. I mean, maybe podcast isn't the best format for this website, but it still is. It's a easy way to interact with people who can watch it live, and I mean, you could do that too on YouTube. But we just found this to be a better community to jump into, and a lot of people that we know are actually pretty successful with it too. So yeah, dude, it's just a way to be with us live, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's all kind of options right now. And sorry if I'm not looking at you guys right now. I'm looking at the website or the poster for this Death Fest. And
nice.
And the guy, Brian Farrell, that's running it is just an awesome guy. And it's November the 19th, and it is at the So the the problem is that I can't read the logo.
Yeah, a common issue in our field of work.
Yeah, and so I'm over there and I'm like, okay, yeah, Texas Death Fest. It's that. It's definitely that. I can't.
That's a big state. I mean,
yeah,
what part
it's in Houston though.
Houston,
it's in Houston, and I got my glasses on, and I still can't read.
Is it a multi-day thing?
It is a 2-day thing. Here, I'm going to zoom in right now, and I'm going to make this work. It is November 19th. Vile is we play second to last. Pyrexia is after us.
Oh, cool. Nice. Oh, sick.
And so that's November 19th. November 20th, Morpheus Descends is the headliner. And I don't know that band. And it is the BFE Rock Club in Houston, Texas. And this is Deep Into the Pit, Texas Death Fest.
There you go.
Right there. Right. So now we have all our info out there. Yeah.
There's a little of hidden in it. So it's Deep in the Pit of Texas.
In the Pit. Didn't I say that? I didn't say that?
You skipped the of.
I mean, there's enough keywords in there that if you Google that shit, you're gonna find it, dude.
Dude, it just looks like twigs.
Yeah.
You know that one logo where it says it says, what's that one meme? It's got a picture of a bunch of sticks, right?
Or like the cracked up leather on your car seat.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm happy with the Vile logo though. I'm happy with it because it looks creepy. It looks, whatever, but you can read it.
Oh yeah, that's actually I found out about you guys because of getting the live cannibalism DVD, and Alex Webster was wearing it.
Right.
That's where I was like, Vile, huh? I need to check them out. Yeah.
Right. Because you could read it. Right.
Yeah, I could read it. No, I definitely knew Vile. Okay, I need to go look at that.
If you look at all the OG logos, really, you could read Severed Savior, no problem. You can read Odious Mortem, no problem. You can read Deeds of Flesh,
Suffocation, Deeds of Flesh, yes. Morbid Angel, even.
Like all those logos they're still evil and death metal, but at
Decrepit
the same time,
Birth, you can read that too.
Easily, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, why did we change that, guys? Like,
I wasn't part of that. I don't agree with all that. It's
like more and more extreme people were going. They were just like trying to push it and be like different, I guess, is probably why.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of bites you in the ass down the road, because you could have.
It's like you can't Google that. Like, if you see a logo, you're just like, I saw that logo, and if I see it again, maybe I'll ask the person who's wearing it to explain it to me or something like that. It's like, I guess it'll give some mystery, but I think
depending on the venue, to type it underneath the logo so that you can read what it is.
Exactly.
That's when I started realizing that was seeing flyers where they'd show the logo and then have to put the actual band name in parentheses underneath. Exactly. And you just go through and it's like literally every single band that you see has to be.
What's that band on Willowtip? Do you know that band? Remember Steve Crow does those logos that are like unreadable. He has like a bunch of those logos, but he did one for this band on Willowtip. It's literally like 33 letters. They call them ex imperatus, but it's like ex imperatus masteris, blah blah blah. It just keeps going.
Oh
it's
yeah,
like, and the logo's just like it's like the bundle of it's just like sticks.
It's like 100 letters or some shit. Yeah,
yeah.
It's a gimmick, but that band is actually really good. So
that's what I heard too.
What do they sound like?
They are like kind of like epic death metal, like kind of Nile Behemoth style metal, kind of really sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're really good.
Hell
they're from like somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe this would be a good time for you guys to explain to me, if you know, all the different subgenres that have come out since the original, well, I mean, there's like there was like the original death metal bands that were, like, Celtic Frost and Napalm Death and Possessed and like the early bands, right?
Yeah.
And Terrorizer and stuff. Then there was the first big wave of all the Florida bands, right?
Right.
And Swedish bands and all that. And then there was the next wave. Vile was in that. Decrepit Birth was in that too, maybe a little bit later, but in that,
yeah.
So that might be the third wave, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I kind of fell off following all the bands that kind of came out since then. So there's been at least two more waves of bands. Of styles, and I don't know what they all are.
Well,
I think a lot of Go for
I
it.
was just going to say, like, Odious Morum just was always for a while we called ourselves progressive death metal, but then
like psychedelic death metal or something.
But really it's just technical death metal.
Yeah.
But Odious Mortem is still kind of in the it's on the California technical side, Deeds of Flesh kind of influence, but it's still in the wave of the Vile's in.
Right.
Yeah,
we were the real kind of like bridge area of coming
probably
out of
so.
that, into that when but yeah, I don't really keep track of all these crazy subgenres.
Joseph probably has more information because he's like more involved in the scene as far as that. But I mean, from what I've just noticed in my brief explanation would be like, there's a lot of those old bands that are still going are doing really well. There's still like that wave is still like, Cannibal's still number one, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still there's still like there's Deicide, Morbid Angel. Those are all like the I Am Morbid and all the things. Those are like still big bringers of people. But then there's new bands like Rivers of Nile and new bands that are kind of like blowing up, kind of not out of nowhere, but in a different style, adding saxophone, trying stuff, a little different. And like, just there's people trying new progressive things, but I would turn it over to Joseph for that.
I don't hear a lot of new genre names being thrown around. I just think that like death metal has just kind of expanded what it means, and now we kind of have to call some stuff old school death metal when it is kind of like that. You definitely have seen like kind of slam becoming its own thing,
right?
Yeah.
So what defines slam?
Slam is like taking like like a couple ideas from Suffocation and Discord,
Dying Fetus,
and just and taking it.
Pyrexia.
And
you mean all the groove parts, like the mosh pit parts, the groove parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then pig vocals.
Yeah, I think Cephalotropsy is kind of like the first generation of bands. Like they were the exemplar band of like going into the slam direction and being something a little different from like brutal death metal. So
now there's another thing I've noticed. If we could actually almost trace the evolution of death metal just by categorizing the drums, right? Like this grouping of death metal had these kind of beats. And then when you get over to here, then it was these kind of beats. So so if you take the first big wave of Morbid Angel and all that, at least the American ones, you have that's where the whole vocabulary of drum beats came from, right? And it's like this is a bomb blast, this is a split blast or whatever, and this is a 1 foot blast, this is a 2 foot blast, and all that whole vocabulary came from that. And then I noticed now there's all these bands that play this super fast snare with 2 foot, just
like
the Suffo beat,
16th with 30 seconds on the hands.
Yeah, that's what it really is. Yeah, 16ths with 30 seconds on the hands, and it's da 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 da. I mean, that sounds like 16ths actually, but
Yeah, it's
and to me,
gravity blast.
I don't have a single one of those in any of Vile's material. There's not a single one of there's not a gravity blast either. I don't mind the gravity blast, but the other one that's just da 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 da, it just gets so monotonous to me.
Right.
And there's a lot of bands that are just putting together, they have to go through different riffs, but then the beats just kind of stay with this bucka 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 tika 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 tika.
You guys kind of had like a flowing double bass thing about Vile that was kind of groovy, and I know that I think the first people that I met that gave me Stench of Redemption. That was no Stench of Redemption. Stench of the Deceased.
Yep. Stench of the Deceased.
Sounds right.
Sounds like a death metal album.
It is.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I have something to say after Joel.
It was the Animosity Kids. The Animosity Kids were all about it. Like when they were really young, they were all about Stench.
I don't know what the Animosity Kids is.
You don't know Animosity, the band?
Well, just Animosity. The band
really?
Animosity.
Oh yeah.
I thought you would know.
Sounds like a hardcore band.
They were kind of in the beginning.
I mean, they were kind of upset. They had some animosity towards the world. But no.
They're like a technical kind of deathcore-ish. But you can't really
deathcore wasn't
pigeonhole.
Deathcore wasn't
they got the stoner. They got the stoner influence too. Like they were really big in the Bay Area.
They were sick. Yeah, they're all teched out. And like Naveen, the drummer.
Oh, they're in the Bay Area.
Yeah, Naveen.
Animosity.
Naveen played for Animals as leaders and stuff later. I mean, he's in Entheos. That's his band now. Naveen.
What year did this come out? Animosity.
2000, I mean, it came out in 2004.
Check out Animals or Animal. What's that album?
Yeah, Animal.
Dude, Animal.
Or
check
Empires.
That out. Empires.
Shut It Down is like where I started with him. I
think Animal would be more up Colin's alley.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just start with just for him.
All right, well, I got a piece. I got some paper and pen right here, so I'm gonna write. I think it came out after I stopped looking around for bands.
Right. No, they took a lot of influence from that from Stench of the Deceased. I want to say Redemption. So
really?
I said that. Yeah. No, they were all about it. That remember Naveen and
I don't know what Naveen is either.
Frank
and
drummer, man. You'll know he's insane.
Yeah, he's an insane drummer. But he that's basically the first people to show you guys to me, and I was like, holy shit.
Oh wow.
But had this
Naveen played on the new Machine Head, didn't he?
Yeah, he plays on so many things. Yeah, he played on Between the Buried and Me stuff too a little bit too, and but like he's
they know me, I just don't know them. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But
I was gonna
say it's just grooving. Yeah, just grooving is what I was getting at. It's had a groovy feel. It wasn't like what you're talking about. It had like kind of a flowing kind of groovy wave to it. But
to me, behind to me for Vile, there's a hidden kind of almost like an Afro funk element. It's kind of a hidden kind of that behind the whole aesthetic of Vile, there should be this kind of just this continual groove thing going that should be kind of it's kind of like when I say Afro funk, I kind of mean it actually, kind of like a Herbie Hancock or some kind of a boom skatat boom boom pap boom 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 pap. That is kind of underneath the whole thing, and I kind of want the whole sensibility of the band to always kind of be rooted back in that kind of groove. So it can go off of that or everything, but you always come back to this kind of groove. And Mike, and I was doing this before I had Vile. I was doing it in other bands, but Mike Hamilton is that kind of drummer, and he just is naturally a groovy kind of drummer, and he could play other kinds of music, groove-oriented music very well if he wanted to.
Okay.
And totally. So it was just a natural thing for him.
Definitely. Yeah, that was a good
so
choice.
Cool,
Casey, what were you were trying to say? I cut you off.
No, it's all good. It's perfect because what he said was really cool. And so, man. So it's interesting because, for me, like in high school, like in the late 90s, I graduated in like 2001. So like, 99, 98, I started getting into death metal and stuff. And I got some of my first CDs were, Nile, the first one, the Cannibal Corpse Vile, actually. And then Gallery of Suicide. We went to the Bloodthirst show and all that. We were talking, but one of the CDs I had early on was Vile Stench. It came out in 99. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had that CD like way back, and I was talking to my friend David about it and stuff. And we were just like, dude, like, I remember like buying that at Lose Records and just having that CD as one of my like first of my collection, my initial collection. Vile was in there, dude. And like to me, it was just like another insane band. And then later on, I met you guys and we ended up touring together. But like Mike Hamilton and all you guys, and it's the coolest guys ever, dude. And like I like on tour, man, we had such a good time back then, like with Deeds of Flesh.
Good. That's good. I'm glad you had a good time.
Oh,
I was stressed out.
What was it? Oh, I know. We had a lot of. We're gonna have to tell some stories tonight.
Well, we were young. We were young, dumb, and full of spunk, dude. We were just fucking out there on the road.
I was texting Mike though before this episode, you know, and I was just like, dude, man. And I put on Stench of the Deceased again and listened to it again today, and I also listened to Depopulate and the other and all your stuff. And dude, like. But there's something like super nostalgic about Stench for me, and I like it brought up like these memories of just man, dude, this shit just hits so hard. And also this Mike on the drums, and it's fucking dope. Dude.
I take pride in
I understand you fully.
The indie release, the independent release. That was when I bought it. Was before it got re-released, so I got the OG.
Yeah, we finished the recording and we got it mastered by a Bay Area guy named Ken Lee, and we went to Milwaukee that year, and so that would have been 99, I guess, right? I guess it was 99, and we handed out or sold or whatever that version, and then we came back home because Juan and I were both, you know. We're at that stage we're both recording engineers. I mean, we recorded that album together, but we were still, you know, really kind of learning. And we said, oh man, there's just a number of things about the mix. Mainly the guitar tone that just wasn't working for us. And we went and retracked guitars, remixed it, remastered it. And that's the one that we put out, that we eventually produced and put out I think we made 2,000 copies of that originally before it got picked up. Yeah.
Oh, so there's an earlier version that you were passing out as like a promo deal. Or
isn't that what Joel was saying just a second ago? You got the
original. I got the original. It's the CD release, but I don't think there's any record label that it came out on. So I thought it was just DIY.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. There was some like. So there was some early ones that I was talking about there. Yeah, what you're talking about is the production CD, but it wasn't on a record label. It was self, you know, it had all the album art and everything like that.
So I have one of those 2,000 copies you're talking about.
Yeah, and there was 1,000 copies where the original, it's got John Zig art on it, right? So it's got all those worms on the maggots on the CD itself. The first pressing has like a kind of a gold, kind of a tint, a kind of a goldish reflective kind of ink on it, and then the second 1,000 is more green.
The green one is what I got. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the second. Yeah.
The first was still 99 or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was still 99. Yeah, it was still 99, and the first one also skipped sometimes in some CD players on the 5th song.
Oh shit!
That's always a bummer. I know that sometimes you get the album back from the label. I know with Diminishing, right? The songs were out of order on the first pressing.
Oh, so like if people got
if someone got the first pressing of Diminishing, the songs are not the right names.
Oh,
it's like sometimes you just get those. Yeah, shit happens exactly. But also too, that's like if you have that now, it's like that's kind of cool. You know, it's like you have the rare one-offs. You know, which is cool.
Right.
But yeah,
definitely
for sure, man.
So let's do it how we usually do it. So Colin, we like to go back in time, dude. We want to talk about when you were a kid. You know, like my first question, as I always do on the show, 99 episodes into it. When was that early memory of hearing music and it clicked, like it wasn't just background noise? You know, what's a melody or a song that maybe your parents were listening to, you heard it on the radio, and something pushed you into the next level of music listening?
Well, my parents were hippies, They were like, psychedelic taking hippies. They were actors and aspiring actors, and they moved from Austin, Texas to New York City with me and my brother, and we're just babies.
Are you older or younger?
I'm 2 years older than my brother.
Okay.
So this is in the early 70s. And so we moved to New York in the 70s, but my dad was a DJ for a little while, and he had a huge record collection, and they were just huge music fans, and so they had all the good 60s and 70s, mainly at that time 60s music. So it was going to be all the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Frank Zappa and Janis Joplin and The Who, and all the great stuff from the 60s, the Doors, all that stuff. So that was being played around the house all the time. Yeah. And my parents divorced or separated when I was about 7, but my dad left most of his records at the house, and so my mom still played all those records and bought a whole bunch of new stuff, and so then she was buying all kinds of other 70s stuff that was good, Bob Seger and all kind of stuff. And so that was in the background. And I remember it was probably when it's about maybe 10 or 11 years old that me and my brother started on our own pulling records out and listening to what we wanted to, and going through and finding stuff and playing with the record player, playing the records at 45 speed or 78 speed, or just messing around and doing our own thing with it. And so, but then I think the moment that you're kind of talking about, the moment that I kind of took responsibility for my own for what I wanted to listen to, was an influence from the neighbor, the guy that lived upstairs, a guy named Lewis, who lived upstairs in the building that we were in. And he was a couple years older than me, so he was already autonomous with his own music stuff. And he started bringing down music, and I can't remember if he brought it down or what the deal was, but the first record that I said I'm going to have to buy a copy of that for myself was the soundtrack to the movie Heavy Metal.
Okay.
And it had a lot of stuff that was barely metal, but it did have Black Sabbath on there. It had The Mob Rules Dio song. That was on there. It had Sammy Hagar. It had some Blue Oyster Cult, stuff like that on there. I had that album, and then another moment that I remember was, again, the same guy brought down Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance.
Sweet.
Nice.
And that was really that was like a religious experience,
Hell yeah, dude. I really support that. It's so awesome.
You're going from the Doors and the Rolling Stones, and then you're going to whatever's in that heavy metal album, and then over to this Priest. And then from there, then I think I started spending more time up at his apartment and seeing what he was getting. And he had another friend in the building who was actually a couple of years older than him. And that guy was this guy Jacob was giving Lewis Pink Floyd, The Wall, and other stuff, and Sabbath albums and all kinds of stuff. So between those two guys, there was all kinds of metal and other good music. Rush was coming through, and other good music was coming down to my apartment from these guys. And so that's how I'm starting to figure out, and this is at about age 12 or something, and that's where I'm figuring out, what the whole scene is, or what heavy music is, and all that stuff.
Right.
And so that's that. And then there's another friend of mine who was actually a little younger, but he lived in another building down the street, but he was pretty advanced. And he's the guy that turned me on to the really heavy stuff. And maybe this is a year later or something. So I go over to his house. His name is Luke. And at Luke's house, I I mean, I remember thumbing through his records and being shocked by the covers and stuff. So I saw Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath.
Hell yeah.
And I saw Slayer, Hell Awaits.
Nice.
And Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
Fuck yeah.
And it's almost as if he was buying these albums for the covers almost.
Yeah, well,
because they're all just like demon covers, right?
We did do that too, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we all did for sure.
Yeah, I think I did too. And so then I started borrowing, and I remember taking home Slayer, Hell Awaits. I remember putting that on.
Dude.
I just remember that experience. If you know how that song starts with that backwards masking and all that stuff.
Dude, it's so sick. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's all swirling in, and I'm looking at the record, and it's got one of those collages of the band members and everything. There's even one picture in the collage of them, probably faking it with salt or whatever, but snorting a huge line of coke.
Yeah, it's like this big. It's like the biggest thing to stick around. Yeah.
That's in there, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm listening to this music, and I start reading the lyrics, and I'm laughing about it, but at the time, I wasn't laughing. At the time, I was wondering if it was going to hurt me to keep listening to this. If listening to this could be damaging, because I'm looking at the lyrics, and they're just highly blasphemous and satanic. And my parents are not ultra Christians or anything, but I'm still looking at this and going and listening to the whole tonality of everything and going, whoa. Right. And I just remember, it's almost like if you had seen some horrific accident on the side of the road, and you saw bodies torn apart in pieces, and what that would do to your psyche.
Right.
It was kind of
that's good.
Like
that's
that.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. And so that was a whole aura, a whole dark aura that was not in Judas Priest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was kind of in Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. That was kind of dark, but not like Slayer. And then so then it just went on from there, and I eventually found Metallica. I think I actually found Testament before I found Metallica, and just went on from there. But that's kind of how I got into metal.
Well, it's kind of just real quick. It's kind of like, I mean, Metallica and and Megadeth and all, like they still don't to me have that darkness that Slayer, even at this that time, dude, like Slayer, even with like Show No Mercy and stuff. But I mean, there's something about Slayer, right?
There's something about Hell Awaits. There's that one song I put it on for a friend the other day.
For sure, Hell Awaits.
That song, the song At Dawn They Sleep.
Yeah,
I was like, that live version of it on live.
What's really
that's like the scariest. As a kid, I was like
very
scary.
Yes.
What's the one?
Yeah.
Kill.
He's all
that's right.
That scared the shit out of me as a kid. Dude.
Or like, necrophiliac.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. God. What about what's Haunting the Chapel, dude? That right there. That one.
That was that's
on the first
live
album.
one. No, that's live.
Oh, okay, live. Okay,
that is first.
Right.
No, the Haunting the Chapel. Isn't that Chemical Warfare?
Right.
You're right.
Yeah, that's
or something like that.
Live Undead's the first one. Isn't Live Undead the first one?
Oh, Live Undead. I'm getting confused. But
Haunting the Chapel is the first studio album, right? Oh no, that's Show No Mercy.
That's Show No Mercy.
Oh my god,
Haunting the Chapel is like
fucking noobs.
Whatever. Basically, like all that shit, dude. All that time, like basically Slayer. Like, I mean, a lot of Slayer's stuff's great, but dude, all the way up to Rain and Blood, dude. Everything up to Rain and Blood is like incredibly insane.
Yeah,
like,
that is like
I love Divine Intervention though. Season's the best.
No, that's just great too.
What's the one after Rain and Blood though? I liked that one too.
South of Heaven.
That's heavy and dark also. That's nasty. Yeah.
But I mean, like Rain and Blood was that one where it's just like Jesus, like
It's more punkish though. Rain and Blood is more like almost like a punk metal album.
That is true. In a rad way, dude. I know you're right. It's a good point. You're totally right. Yeah.
It's so popular that like it's like the one album that it's just the most played one, but it has if you like
best mix,
take it apart, it's like fucking insane. Like it's just like as far as like album to album be not subjective, like how popular it got. Like it's fucking Angel of Death and shit like that. And I don't know, like hearing that for the first time was like whoa, I was like hyper.
Dave on the drums is just going so savage on that, dude.
Yeah,
I mean that's like his most savage moment. They're all savage, but I
mean, the most underrated. Actually, yesterday I was listening to Slayer for the first time in years, and I listened to Divine Intervention, and they have their fastest songs on that album. Like Ditto Head's their fastest song, and like I was listening to it, like why, like, and it's like that was probably my introduction into technical. Was this is a song called Sex Murder Art, and then there's another one called Ditto Head that's like really fast. There's one that's like really riffy. It's like super riffing, and people always go like fuck that album. Like when that album came out, I was like, that's still like to me in my top 2 or 3 of theirs, you know, because it's so underrated. But I also came in when that album was maybe just out of its cycle. I just got into them, so I like was super into that shit. And I think Divine Intervention, that's the first one with Paul Bostaph, because and then he ended up, I guess Dave Lombardo came back, right? He was in Exodus, I think Paul was, and then he replaced Dave Lombardo, and then I think Dave Lombardo came back or something,
or he was in Testament maybe at the time, right?
No, that might be right.
Lombardo was in Testament.
I can't remember now. Oh, Lombardo was in Testament. Bostaph was in Exodus. That's right. And then and then Lombardo came back.
And then Holt and then everything. Yeah. Speaking of the, you know, one of the bigger bands, the incestuous bigger bands, like those bands were all trading back in the day, like, you know, like the Cali scene and death today.
It's history just repeating itself. I mean, we're not as that level, but I'm just saying it's kind of how you build a community. You build a scene together, and that's kind of how everybody kind of keeps everybody afloat, you know, because we were saying earlier, it's harder to find drummers or, an extra guitar player.
Easy now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, Slayer does. I mean, I don't want to keep going on Slayer, but I was just you guys made me realize like it was the first like evil metal band that really made me feel the evil, because I associate Metallica and Megadeth and Exodus with like partying and shit.
Yeah, Metallica never scared me. Never scared. I never got scared.
Never got
scared
of Metallica.
It's really good music, but I never got like, woo. I got like
Ride the Lightning is kind of dark though.
Yeah, it gets a little dark for sure. Yeah.
But Merciful Fate is Melissa and Don't Break the Oath. Those are definitely dark.
Yeah.
Those are evil sounding too. If you're not into the vocals, then that kind of cuts it out. But
Slayer took that evil and added the super extreme element, and that's what like was the double whammy of we're gonna punch you in the face repeatedly with Satan's fists.
Well, I mean, like it's like it's kind of like this, like the Trinity is like Master of Puppets, and then Rain and Blood, and then Altars of Madness, kind of.
Oh,
as far as just drumming.
That's your Trinity, yeah.
Just as far as like just thinking of right now in my mind, like leading to just like super fast blasting and all.
Well, after talking to Paul from Cannibal, I mean, I'm getting the everyone's saying that once they heard Altars, they're like, okay, that's what you can do with drums now. All right, that's now the level, and then from there it was just like it was exponential growth.
Yes,
that,
totally.
Yeah. That is true. You just need a Pete Sandoval.
Sandoval you're right though. It went from Lombardo was the example, and then it went to Sandoval.
Yeah.
But it kind of at that point though, people who follow metal, Sandoval is going right into the underground scene where we're all at, right. But that's the weird thing about Slayer is it's kind of actually sort of right there at the crossroads between going into the underground. Slayer themselves, remember they used to make fun of death metal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Remember they used to say, "Oh, those guys suck. I don't listen to that." And so they were kind of like at the, they could play with Metallica and all that, and they were sort of mainstream people would know about Metallica, and they might know about Slayer, but they would not know about Morbid Angel.
No.
Yeah. You have to go extra deep.
You have to, it has to be your goal is to dig into that. Like you don't it's, I mean, obviously there's the rare cases of the older brothers or the neighbors from upstairs or all that type of stuff where you get that Morbid Angel introduction. But most of the time when those situations happen, we've, talking to so many people on the show now, if you're not ready for it, it would just be like something that you can't accept at that time. You have to go through this rite of passage, this progression up slowly and surely to be able to accept the more extreme stuff along the way.
You do have to be initiated into it, and there's maybe a couple initiations, right? That it takes.
Yeah.
You first have to be initiated into metal, but we're also talking about an earlier time, because you could come in right now and you might just skip over the British heavy metal bands.
I was getting into that. Actually, that was the thing I was going to talk about. Is now you have Spotify and things, and people are going to tell you to listen. Oh, just jump. You don't have to dig for anything. Like, just click this link, and it's the craziest thing you've ever heard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas
Right.
Before it used to be like,
30 years
oh,
of
this
like,
band. Okay, well, I'm into this now. It's kind of crazy, crazier than Slayer. And this is crazier than that other band. This is kind of like moving up the rungs, like we've talked about on the show a bunch. But like now it's just like, oh, you want like an elevator? All right, just click this link. It's like a rocket ship to the top now.
I don't want to call it cheating in general, but it is cheating yourself, because
it's cheating the experience.
I appreciate the path that I've taken personally in the last 25 years of listening to metal, like going through that whole progression to get to where I'm at today. It makes the appreciation for all that stuff along the way more prevalent, more powerful, and yeah, you could jump straight to the end and it might still be something that you enjoy, but I think that having that knowledge that we've picked up along the way and preparing your brain for it along the way too, we
got the full experience. I'm a Gen Xer, you guys are older millennials, right? And so maybe the older Gen Xers, the people who are at the cusp, like the guys in Exodus and all those guys, the Metallica Exodus guys, the guys who are like 60 years old now, down to the guys who are maybe 35 to 40. We got the whole thing. We got to get in somewhere in there when it was still rising. We got to see all of metal peak, and then now we're on the downslide.
Yeah, it is kind of like what you said, Anthony. It's kind of like reading a book and just going like, okay, well, I get the beginning. What's the last chapter say? Right. Just jumping to the end and being like, all right, well, I don't want to go through.
And you can be like, that chapter is sick, but I mean, you won't fully get the whole book unless you were to read the chapters in between.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole timeline of the book. Like how it became, and there's so many things that, like, so many characters you missed in the book, that you can call bands or whatever. But so many things that you've missed along the way. But and then you show those kids that have jumped from, like, oh, I like Avenged Sevenfold. Oh, Necrophagus is sick. To and then you show them like so like the band in the middle, and they're like, oh, I don't know, because they've gotten their nut, for lack of a better term. They've gotten their end game, and they're like fuck, like nothing is going to satisfy me anymore, because I need like the top level of everything now at the I need DoorDash food, like when I tap of a button, I need like everything now. And it's kind of like it's like gotten rid of the working.
It actually sounds like you're explaining, like, if we took this out of context, you could be saying the same thing about like pornography,
or cars or guns, Now, if you're into guns right now, I mean, just everything's there, and cheap and fast and reliable and everything. But if you were into guns 25 years ago, you'd be, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. And this isn't really right. Or cars, same. Same thing.
Just jump to Tesla that goes 0 to 60 in like 1.9 seconds.
Right.
It's like where you start.
That's where you start, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which shout out Mike Gilbert. He owns one of those, didn't he? Let me drive it, dude. That thing's fucking insane, dude.
Wow.
We were in a back street. Of South City, and he was just like, "Bring it to it." Not yet, dude. And we were
in front of the banners.
Bring it to bring it to a stop and just fucking floor it, dude. And it literally was like threw my head back, dude. I couldn't even see where I was going for a second.
Yes.
I had to like recorrect and be like, oh shit. I actually, to be honest, I pussed out and I let off right away because I was like, wow, that was too much. He was like, no, dude, don't fucking let off. Just keep going. And I was like, all right, let's do it again, dude.
No, I felt like I was like in the Jetsons. I had a friend take me in a like a crazy powerful Tesla. And it was just like, you just hear like that noise, like it's a spaceship noise. Like, you're like, what's going on? And like
the giant iPad as a fucking.
Yeah, it's got like a big screen on it.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that's go really fast.
I was watching the screen the whole time, going like, "Whoa, dude, that's fucking huge!" Like, how is that? I actually saw a video like a couple days ago of like someone in the middle of like America getting pulled over, and he's like, "You can't have like a TV screen on your dash." And the guy's like, "Dude, I bought the car, and this is what it comes with." Like, he's like, "What is this?"
The cops do. They have a TV screen.
Yeah.
I think you could even. I think you could like hack it and actually play movies on that shit too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I bet. Oh, you can make fart. You turn your fucking horn to fart noises. Yeah, there's so many things
rad,
you can do with that.
dude. Yeah. I would totally.
That's my favorite feature about that.
Musk did that. Yeah.
No way.
So let's get back on the timeline a little bit, Colin.
Okay.
So you're being introduced to this more extreme style of metal,
right?
You know, you're getting the download. It's marinating. When did you decide you wanted to start playing guitar?
Let's see. Probably it's all gonna be around the same time, within the same
13 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be about 13 years old, and so my mom's boyfriend at the time is a guitar player, although he's a folk music guitar player, but still he's a guitar player, and he's around the house. And then that guy that had the Slayer and Merciful Fate, Luke, he was ahead of me, and he was taking guitar lessons. His dad was a guitar player, and also like acoustic, like reggae and stuff. But so he was getting guitar lessons. He was more advanced than me. So there was two guitar players next to me. So it was kind of like, well, you know, you're listening to all this guitar-oriented music, and my parents were like, okay, you know, I think I must have mentioned it or whatever, and they say, you want a guitar? You know, that would work because you know these other guys, you can learn from them. Mm-hmm. And somebody suggested, I think my mom's boyfriend, get him an electric guitar because it'll be a lot easier to play. Get him a little amp, and I had it was a little cheap. Probably Korean or Japanese Kramer guitar was the guitar.
Oh yeah.
And I had a little amp that was called the Gorilla.
Oh no, my dad has that still. My dad.
Oh yeah, he has his Gorilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gorilla. And it had distortion in it, and so it was okay. And so I started with that, and then I just started buying tablature books like Iron Maiden or whatever tablature.
So tablature books, were those around? Like how early do you remember those being around? Because when do you think? Not to go totally off, but tablature became a thing.
Tablature was so it's maybe you're right. Maybe tablature didn't really come out and start getting published. It would have been Hal Leonard Publishing, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I've had many of those. Yep.
He's a busy guy.
And it would have been you would have seen Ozzy, Randy Rhoads. Right. Yep. And so would have been Blizzard of Oz or the next one. What was that one? Diary of a Madman. So that would have been 82 and 83. So you would have had Tab in 82, 83, 84 for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You would have had Tab in 82, 83. And so I was probably playing guitar in 82. So I probably wasn't getting Tab, till maybe a year or two from then, but that was in the beginning.
Not to cut you off, but I just decided I just typed in Google who invented tablature. It says the origins of a German lute tablature can be taken well back into the 15th century. That's a German lute tablature.
Oh,
whoa.
Yeah. There's been guitar tabs for like 400 years, or something.
Straight up tab I'm looking at, like written in the 15th
century. There's a video.
Century.
What's that dude who does like those guitar videos? I forgot his name, man. And he goes blowing it, but like
but what does he do though?
But basically they have this video about the history of guitar, and like there's been like tabs and numbers like for like hundreds of years, and then all of a sudden they like switched it to like to match the notes for like to make it in the orchestra or academic or something.
Yeah, because once you learn the formal music that you can superimpose onto any instrument, that's
1500s.
You can't zoom in on that because I can't.
Well, a lot of stringed instruments have number systems also with the tab, and even
I'm sure
like Frederick Node, the classical guitar books also have like it's like if you have like all the different things added at the top, because you have like okay, like position numbers, you got like, you know, like Roman numerals, so like, you know, like positions on the guitar numbers, like, you know, not just fingers, and then all these different, there's like 3 different numbering systems, and it's like, wait, but like I could just use tab and it's like way easier.
Was that a 15th century tab sheet that you just pulled up, Joe?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah. That's what I typed.
Is that from Guitar Pro 1?
Yeah, Hal Leonard 1.
Guitar Pro -27.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, that was it. And so, but at first, there probably wasn't any tab for the first year, probably not. But one thing I do remember is that I didn't have a lot of patience for learning other people's songs. I never did. I would listen to the riffs. I would listen to the music, and then I would write my own riffs that were inspired by other people's riffs. But I never could get, I mean, I have learned covers. I mean, in my life I have, but I never could really get myself to focus myself on learning other people's songs because I just got off on writing my own songs. So I was always into writing my own riffs and writing my own songs from the beginning.
Right.
So I did have tab, but it was more like I'd learn the riff that I wanted to learn, and then I wouldn't really.
You're more learning it for technique purposes, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's cool because
a pattern.
I was going to say, after all this time of the show, like we do get to talk to various versions of guitar players, and there is the guy that only played other people's music that got him to a certain point.
Yes.
And then there's the vice versa, like you, who quickly realized that you just wanted to create your own sounds with the guitar.
Well, a lot of jazz and classical came from people playing, you know, each other's own music, or covering music. That's like
covering
jazz 101. Yeah, definitely.
No, I mean, originally music, when it's in its original folk formulation, that's all you're doing is playing pre-existing songs that have been passed on for generations.
Yep.
Jazz standards.
And then, but classical music is, you know, right? It's what the writers are composers, and they're composing, you know, all this stuff, all these different instruments. But the thing with guitar players, and you're totally right that there are. I mean, I've played with plenty of guitar. I've played with all kinds of people that are on that spectrum. I've played with some people that just shredders that I mean never really wrote a whole song of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And they can play all kinds of stuff, and they know covers and all that, and you can integrate them into the band, and they can make suggestions, and they can help you you know, make a riff better or whatever. But you're not going to hear them on their own putting together their own songs.
Mm-hmm.
But they're great members of the band.
Totally.
And so you can't. It's just that this is where if you're a songwriter, it doesn't matter if you're a drummer, like, you know, Don Henley from the Eagles or whatever. If you're a songwriter, then you have the opportunity to be a band leader if you want to be. And to put together your own bands, and you can kind of be the engine of the train, if you want to be, and kind of control your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is
as a cover player, growing up just playing other people's music, that really isn't an option, you know.
No, you
can never be a band leader because you're always just more comfortable playing something that. And that's total. I respect the shit out of that too, but I'm just saying, like, that you only can go so far with just other bands or other composers giving you their music that they've already.
I feel like there's like two different styles of like people, or shred, or like I don't want to say shredders, but there's people that can shred, and it's like more of an Olympic style. Like it's more like, whoa, they can jump 7 feet high or something like that. And then there's the ones that are more the creative style that are like, well, I'll jump 7 feet high, but in this weird way that you've never seen.
Yeah.
And it's like, but still, they're still very, like, both of them are insanely impressive. But but the one that can write their own, do the whole like creative thing is probably more respected. But there's still people that you're like watching them do like covers and the kids online. You're like, what the. How are you? I get all like angry, just like like totally, like these kids. There's literally these tiny kids that are just like way better than most people I know. Like it's getting to this the skating point.
Dude, even like
the skaters,
even like 20, 30-year-olds now are like doing that. Like Alex, dude. Like I went to his house in Chula Vista before the Iron Maiden show, and it was like, oh, he's like this 8-string guitar.
Oh, Alex
I know
Basie?
you've told, from Odie. He plays in Odious now. Colin, and he also does record. His band is Ominous Ruin. You should check that out if you haven't heard of them. Right. Check out Ominous Ruin.
Yeah,
they have 2 albums out, right?
One full length.
Oh, one full length.
They're getting ready.
Couple old EPs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're actually, they're a good. They pay homage to our older scene in the Cali death
Bay Area dudes, like
okay, cool. I probably like that. Then old school beats and stuff. Yeah,
Basie shreds, dude.
Yeah, and he's just super shredder.
But he had this like crazy. He had like all these insane guitars, dude. Like and it was like 8-string, and I was like, okay, it's like a low string and a high string, and I was like, and I know you've told the story before too about Joel about playing like some 8-string guitar and not knowing what to do. I felt like it reminded me of that, and I was just sitting there like, what? And I was like trying to, just
you're picking like the wrong string. Your brain's like, I don't understand this low string. Like,
this is in my way. Get this out of here.
I'm like, what's happening?
It was so weird.
It reminded me of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder versus Splinter, dude. Like Shredder is just a guy who was only doing what he was, but Splinter Splinter's the rat, right? Splinter's the one who really came up with his own shit and made his own style of martial arts, dude.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the old protege, or the protege versus the kids versus the protege or something. I don't know. Anthony Trunco.
Stop with that, dude. I've had one fucking beer so far, dude. And I actually haven't even hit the pen yet, too.
So Colin, we get toasted on this. So
go for it.
Question.
Yeah.
What are you sipping on?
What are you drinking?
Lemon lime water.
Oh, okay.
Oh, damn, you're wasted. Jesus, calm down.
Yeah. Like you're overhydrated, dude.
So, all right, let's get back to the timeline.
Yeah, it's a good timeline.
All right, so 13, you're starting to play all those songs.
Oh, we're still on 13. That's all.
No. This is my pushing us into the next one, which is 13. You find the tablature books. You realize that you want to,
I got my own little amp. I got my Kramer guitar. I got my amp. I'm going back and forth to Texas in the summer times to visit with the grandparents and bringing my guitar on the plane. And I'm probably checking my little amp on the, in the luggage or whatever.
Yeah.
And, that's my guitar is like my little security blanket that goes with me everywhere. And, but it was, okay. So, all right. So let me try to, that's the mode I'm in from age 13 as I'm going to school, and guitar is just, what I'm doing on my own, and I'm not really I don't really have any other friends that are also guitar players until my dad moves back to Texas when I'm 16 or something, and me and my brother go with him, and I finish high school in Austin. And that's where I met a guy named Steve, a couple of people, actually, a few people who were also musicians, and they're also playing guitar. No, I mean, I did have Luke, actually. That was the one other person I had in New York. But it wasn't until I got to Texas before I started really meeting other musicians and people I could actually jam with, and going to other guitar players' houses, and, without a drummer or whatever, just playing and trading riffs or whatever, showing each other how to play, or what kind of pick do you use, and all that stuff. And so that's when I'm 16, and I'm still just getting through school and just messing around. And guitar is a hobby, and guitar stayed a hobby Okay, so then when I get out of high school, you know what happened was I was in Texas, in Austin, till I was 20 years old, and guitar was a hobby until I got an opportunity to come to California. So I had a friend who, him and his dad moved to California to work in oil refineries as technicians, instrument technicians, a certain kind of trade. And my buddy said, if you want to come out here, you can stay with us. And, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going to college. I wasn't doing anything. I was just messing around. Right. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And I just moved out there. And as soon as I got to the Bay Area, so this is the Bay Area we went out to. So I moved out to...
What year was that?
This is 1990.
Cool.
This is 1990. I'm 20 years old, almost 21. And we move out to... I live in Vallejo. They had there was an apartment. I think I stayed in Antioch or something for a few weeks. And then me and my friend Nick, we got an apartment in Vallejo. And then we were working at an Exxon refinery that was right there.
Sorry to cut you off, but real quick, it's being in Antioch in 1990. Did you hear about sadists and all that stuff that was going on out there?
Well, at the time, so what happened is we're living in Vallejo, and so I'm in Antioch for just a few weeks while we figure out what to do, and I'm not meeting anybody there. And then we go to Vallejo, and I'm not meeting anybody there, but then we're getting in his car, and we're driving across the Benicia Bridge to Concord. And there's a Rasputin Records there.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and they have a whole metal section and all that. And so we're going, and there's bulletin boards, and there's a place next to it called, right down the street, called Guitars Plus. It's a music store. And I'm going in there on Pleasant Hill, or on, what is that called? Contra Costa Boulevard. I'm going in there, and I'm seeing on the bulletin boards all these people wanting to jam, all drummer looking for guitar player, wanting to form band, all these one ads,
right,
just piled up on there. And I compare that to what we had in Austin at Waterloo Records or whatever the place was, and it was just nothing going on in Austin. Austin had a tiny metal scene, and I go over to the Bay Area. I go to Concord, and it's just. And then we went down to San Francisco, and I start going into the music stores and everything. And we pick up BAM magazine, BAM magazine, Bay Area Music Magazine. Yeah. And you open it up, and you see the Stone and the Omni, right? Those two clubs. You see the calendars in there, and it's just huge metal bands, just every week, multiple, and all the Bay Area bands. It's everything. It's just jumping. Right. Oh, yeah. So the Bay Area is just jumping with metal and with musicians and people looking for bassists and drummer. And so it's like, wow, I can actually form a band here. I can actually do something with music instead of just it's possible to do something. And I eventually, I think the first guy that I think maybe the first guy I jammed with was a guy named James Santiago, and he lived in that area, and he had a post up for looking for whatever people to jam with, play metal, and he later was in the band 40 Grit.
Okay,
First he was in Obsidian, which is another band from the Bay Area. It sounded like Metallica or Testament or something, and then he was in 40 Grit, and then he got out.
Remember 40 Grit.
He got out of the whole thing, but he was a shredder, and so I remember jamming with James. There was another guy named Andy Lyman, who was just a thrash guitar player I jammed with. I started finding drummers, started jamming with drummers. Had to sometimes go to Oakland or San Francisco and go to people's band practices and just kind of started doing it. And I was working in these oil refineries, and we were doing shutdowns. So the oil refinery shuts down a certain section of the refinery, and then they have to do all their maintenance over a period of a month or 6 weeks or something. And so all the contractors go in there, and we'd go in there and do stuff. And then I'd be off work for whatever, couple months or something until you get called for another job. And so that's when I'd be jamming. And I did that back and forth for about maybe 2.5 years. I kind of went back and forth between working for these refinery companies, different ones, going to LA sometimes working in the Bay Area, going to maybe Salt Lake City or wherever, and working in these refineries on these shutdowns. And what I was doing at the time actually was what's called stress relieving, and you wrap welded pipes with heating elements, and you heat up welded pipes. And yeah, it's pretty, you know, you got to be careful, but it doesn't, you know, it's not too technical.
And during all that time, you're thinking, I can't wait until I can go jam again.
Yeah, and I'm telling the guys that I just met, you know, oh, sorry guys, I'm going to be gone for the next 6 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing that back and forth, and nothing can really take off while I'm doing that until I finally say, okay, I'm just not going to take any more of these refinery jobs, and I'm going to have to find something else. The refinery jobs paid okay too, so I'm going to have to find something else.
Was that like an independent contractor type deal, or how did that work?
Yeah, in the way that works is in that whole milieu or whatever, you have oil refiners. It's like this all over the world. You'll have an oil refinery, whether it's in the Bay Area or whether it's in Houston or wherever. And around the oil refinery will always be next to the water, and there will always be some kind of industrial neighborhoods around it, right? Because it's, you know, it's kind of off to the edge of society.
Right.
And so then there will always be all this sort of industrial contractors that will surround the oil refinery. So all these roll-up door warehouse type buildings. And you'll have companies that do all kinds of piping and instrumentation and welding vessels together, and all kinds of industrial kinds of contracting is going on all around there. And so these are all independent companies for the most part. Sometimes they have, you know, sometimes you'll have a company that has an office in maybe Texas where they have a lot of refineries, and the Bay Area or something like that. But most of the time they're smaller companies, and they're servicing the refinery on contracts. And the refineries are constantly doing maintenance. So they're always shutting down different areas of the refinery and bringing in these contractors, work for a short period of time, then they move to another part. And so that's kind of the culture of the whole oil refinery maintenance world. And when I actually went out there, the original job that I was supposed to get didn't happen. So I had to go around to the industrial park in Benicia, and I had to go, you know, knock on doors and find work. And so I did, and I got into stress relieving, and I learned how to, you know, what that was about, and kind of stayed with those kind of companies for a couple of years. And then after that, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore, because I started finding musicians that were good, and I wanted to jam, and I was good enough at that point to actually be able to, you know, not make a fool of myself or whatever. And so then I started working at doing other things. Worked at Guitar Center. Worked for a company that did housing insulation. You know, anything that I could stay there in the Bay Area and have weekends off, and
enough to pay the bills, so you had enough time to jam.
Yeah, and I would be renting a room from somebody. And there was one period where I rented a room from a bunch of people in Benicia. There was like a house of a bunch of musicians and music people, and met a lot of people through that whole thing. And
were they metal adjacent, or were they just doing
they're
their
all
own thing?
a bunch of metalheads living at this house in Benicia.
Nice.
And so doing that, and I'm kind of expanding out, because I kind of settled up in, you know, that area around Concord, Vallejo, and around that refinery and those refineries. Then I kind of expanded out, started going down to Oakland, and by '94 I had a band called Entropy that was practicing in Oakland.
Okay.
And I got to put that demo up online at some point.
Dude.
I remastered it, and
Nice.
There's a lot of people that would want to hear that, dude, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a Vile YouTube channel that's got shut down because I didn't use it for a long time. But I think that might have been on there at one point. It's been out, but not for a long time. And that band had, well, at the time in 1994 in the Bay Area, you're going to have a very hard time finding a fast double bass drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're going to have a hard time anywhere in the world finding somebody that could play, Death and
seems
Morbid
difficult.
Angel.
Yes. Seems
Yes.
difficult.
Very
It's new
difficult.
too. It wasn't a very common thing too, right?
Wasn't that common.
Right.
We found this guy. So I put out an ad in the newspaper and BAM or wherever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was called the Classified Flea Market. Is what it was called.
Yeah.
And found a bassist. I found Matt Favor, who is the original bassist for Vile. And he was from New York, but he was out there and he had 5 or 6 string bass and he was into death metal and he knew the Florida bands and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other steps of some other guys I jammed with. There was a guy named Richard, a drummer I had a project with for a little while. There's a guy named Ed McKeon, another drummer I played with in San Leandro in some roll-up door storage thing. I played sort of like more thrash-oriented metal with him. So I had some kind of other people that I had jammed with and done stuff with, but we could never get anything together. But this one here called Entropy had this guy named Uranio Hunter, who ended up killing himself about year and a half later, 2 years later. I think we had the band for about a year and a half or 2 years, and he was kind of I didn't even know that before I met him, he had a huge heroin problem. And that the moment that we met him and put this band together with him, he was clean. And that was the period in which he was clean and was able to come to band practice and not be a flake and all that. Mm-hmm. But so that band had me and Matt and Uranio, and then Aaron Strong, who was later the guitar player from Vile. He was also from Concord, and I knew him through friends and got him to start coming down to Oakland where the practice was. And Aaron sang. He was doing low vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So we had a 4-piece at that point. So we had everything put together, a whole set, 10 songs or something like that. In the same place on the other side of us, Skin Lab was practicing.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Skin Lab was practicing, and so we talked to them, and they would come over, and they'd be like, "Whoa, dude, you got a good drummer, wow,
yeah,
this guy smokes, So there was some respect there, and I was like, okay, so I got made friends with Steve and Skin Lab, and then Steve had Brian Regan, who was in a band from Concord called Circle of Vengeance, that Jack Gibson was in, the bassist of Exodus. He was originally in Circle of Vengeance, and they were a progressive thrash metal band. Brian Regan started jamming with Skin Lab and coming down, and I'd be like, "Dude, what's up, Brian?" I knew him from Concord because I'd go to hang out with Circle of Vengeance, see them, go to their practices and stuff. And I guess I've kind of skipped the whole kind of part where I kind of found the Concord metal scene. I guess that's in there. That's back in there too. I was jamming with people, and then I sort of found other people that were metalheads, started going to shows, and I sort of found the scene in that area. And people knew me as a guy that played guitar and was trying to do his own thing, but didn't have anything going on, and there wasn't a whole lot of availability. So if you had a working band going, you're doing good. And it was when Entropy came out, we played a couple shows and people got to hear us and stuff. That's when people were like, "Oh, this guy actually can do something." He actually put together a 10-song set. We heard from Steve and Brian that it's good, and that's when it was kind of like, "Oh, Colin, you're a real musician." Oh, okay. And so then that band did a little bit and was around until Uranio died. And then basically I was living in Concord, and I stopped going down to Oakland, and Matt was living in Oakland, but Aaron was also in Concord, and we kind of just went back to our little our caves, or a little back to our where we were from, and the guy and Juan Urtiaga, the singer of Vile, he had okay, so Aaron Strong, singer, who later became the guitar player of Vile, he was friends with a guy named Mark Varian, who was also a drummer. And Mark Varian had a band with Juan Urtiaga called Lords of Chaos that practiced in Concord. And that band practiced a rehearsal studio in Concord. And because of Mark, and because Mark was good friends with Aaron, I just started going over there and hanging out. It's like, okay, Uranio's dead now. We went to his funeral. I don't have a band anymore. And I'm just going to go hang out with Aaron. And Aaron's going over to this practice place with these guys. So I'm going over there and just hanging out or whatever. And that's all I was doing. And I was just kind of hanging out there and maybe showing Andre, the other guitar player of the band, some of my riffs and kind of just hanging out and that kind of stuff. And at some point, Mark or somebody, no, I know what it was. They lost their bassist, and Aaron started playing bass for them. And so then at that point, they kind of said, okay, let's ask Colin to play second guitar. So it'll be Colin and Andre on guitar. It'll be Aaron on bass. It'll be Juan on vocals and Mark on drums. And that was Lords of Chaos. And that band played one show, I think. They had played some other shows on their own, but with me and Aaron.
With that lineup, yeah.
That lineup. So this is 1994, late 94, early 95. But what happened was, soon as I got in the band, at first it was like, okay, I'm starting to learn the riffs, and so I can, have something to do and play with these guys. And they already have a set. I'm not overly excited about it because I want to play my own music.
Yeah.
And but okay, I'm going to do it, and then I'll end up writing some songs with them or whatever. But what ended up happening was, the more I got integrated into the band and listening closely, the more I realized how sloppy everybody was. And how people weren't really conscientious with what they were doing, whether it's the drummer or whoever.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, hey, so let's break this down, So what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm like, okay, but play it slow.
Right.
Well, slow, I don't know. It's like this. No, play it slow. What notes are these? Okay. Trying to break it down. And the same thing with the drummer. I'm like, hey, Mark, when we play these double bass parts, I can't hear your kick drums, man. It's too quiet. So I need to know what you're playing. Yeah. So can you show me, just nobody else playing, just show me what you're playing right there. Oh, man, don't ask me to play by myself like that, blah, blah, blah. And he starts getting triggered and...
the pun not intended.
Literally.
Right,
Before
triggers.
Obviously,
he's triggered and drum triggered at the same time.
Obviously, this is before triggers, and that's why.
Right.
And
that's why you couldn't hear him when he got
triggered. Before triggers. Oh,
and you brought up triggers with him. He didn't like that. He didn't want to hear about triggers, and so
the whole thing's a rat race. Dude.
I like Mark, and I wrote some songs with him separately that were more simple, like doomy stuff. And he's actually a good drummer, but he just death metal drumming is kind of it's kind of an athletic sport.
Yeah,
and
it is.
You don't even have to be a musician.
That's the
really
whole thing, dude. It's a fucking race.
It's an athlete's thing, and the mentality of it is an athlete's mentality. It's all about being athletic, and so if you don't have an athlete's mentality. Then it's not going to work in extreme metal. And so what happened was, and I had been jamming with Uranio, and I kind of knew what was possible. And so we started constructively I started constructively trying to work on the whole thing and make it better and stuff. And there was some improvement and all of that happened. But then I think me and Juan actually conspired a little bit, and what happened was Juan started buying recording equipment. He said he had some funds, and he was like, I want to start recording our band practices.
Rad.
And somebody already had an 8-track tape player, a 4-track tape machine or something. He bought something, I don't know what it was, some kind of Tascam thing or something that was a little more advanced, and we started recording at band practice. And then that's when we really started to hear what was going on. And Juan, he was exempt from criticism because he was the vocalist. Mm-hmm. And he could do his vocal parts. And so he's kind of looked at me and it's like, well, Colin is more serious than the other guys in this band with me. Right. And he's telling me that these guys are kind of not up to speed here, and they don't seem to have a whole lot of energy to improve. And so, so what do we do? And it was around that time that I kind of feel bad almost not, talking about people and from the past and saying, but it's just honest, because at some point musicians reach a stage where you either commit to the art, that you commit to the thing, you commit to the art, you commit to the path, right, and you just put everything into it, and you say, I'm going to get over these deficiencies, I'm going to get my playing better, I'm going to do this, or you don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure, it takes a lot of work, dude.
It takes a lot of work, and you just say, I'm going to commit, and I'm going to go to the nth degree of whatever I can. I'm going to go the full way.
Sure, yeah.
And you start finding the people who are more in it for fun and more in it for just having a good time and just, whatever. And then the people who are saying, no, I want to be a professional musician. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what happened in that band, and that's where me and Juan basically said, we want to be professional musicians. Yeah. And
next level.
These guys don't want to do that. And that realization and that attitude started leading to fights and stuff like that. And then the drummer kicked us out of the practice pad because he was renting it. He was on the contract. We rented a place across the street, and then we were just going to reform the band. We were going to find a new drummer. And, that's kind of where we were in 95, late 95. It was about winter of 95. And me and Juan were we knew that we liked each other and we were serious people, and we were both into recording. I was already into recording. He was into it. And we just rented a place across the street, and it was just the two of us. And the other guitar player from Lords of Chaos, we said, you can be in the project with us too, but he didn't really come around that much. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what was deal with Aaron was. I called my old bass player, Matt. Matt, you want to be in something with us? Yeah. He said, okay. But we didn't have a drummer. And so we kind of just were like, all right, we're on pause. Right. And then that's when we started the drummer hunt. And it took us about maybe 6 months to find Mike.
The drummer hunt, dude.
So tell us about how you found Mike.
Right. How did Mike come about?
Dude, we love Mike, so I'm curious. Yeah. This is a great story now.
So then, it was okay. Yeah. So there's hardly anybody around that can play fast and solid. Totally. And we already determined that we weren't gonna mess around, and that we wanted to be able to record the drummer and listen back and go, yeah, that's solid. We're on, that we wanted that. We knew we needed that. And we're in that stage of history where there's very few people, and there's thrash drummers around, but they're not double bass people. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking around and nothing's really happening. And then there's a guy named Thilo Fellinger. Thilo, it's a German name. He's a German living in America, living in the Bay Area. And he later got into live sound, and he's the live sound guy for Death Angel, Exodus, and some large Bay Area bands. And that's he does that now, and he's total pro. But Tilo, he lived in Fairfield, so this is Solano County. Is it even Solano County? It's north. It's well north. It's 45 minutes an hour north of 45 minutes north of Concord. It's kind of in another scene entirely, and if you're not out there, you don't really know what's going on out there. But Tilo was living out there, and I don't remember how we met him, but he had a band called Alistair, like Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
And it sounded like Metallica, and they would play in Concord, and we would talk to them, and they were a tight band, and he was the drummer, and he said, well, you're looking for a double bass drummer, you need Mike Hamilton.
Okay.
And we're like, oh, Mike Hamilton. Okay. Well,
okay.
Hook us up. And he's like, I'll hook you up. Next time I see Mike, I'll tell him, give me your number. I'll tell him to call you. And a month later or something, we probably saw him again, Tilo, or 2 months later, maybe. We're like, haven't heard from Mike. You know what? He's like, oh, yeah, I haven't seen him yet, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, he got Mike's phone number, and he told Mike, these guys are going to call you. And I remember actually being in the Safeway on Monument Boulevard at the Four Corners location and calling Mike on the phone, on the payphone.
Nice.
And, yeah, man, I heard about you and blah, 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 blah. And so we got his address. Oh, he told me straight up, he's like, I'm interested or whatever, but I'm telling you straight up front, my buddy Jim is my buddy from high school, and we write songs together, and I want to do something with Jim. So I would like Jim to be in the band too, if we do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we have a guitar player, the guy from Lords of Chaos. He's like, yeah. And we said, okay, well, let's go up there. We went up to Fairfield where their practice studio was. And we got in there, and we met him and Jim, and we listened to Mike play, and we were just like, oh, shit, okay.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
This guy's better than my old drummer, Uranio, and he plays Suffocation perfectly, and this guy's the best drummer I ever jammed with for metal. And Jim was tight too, and they had songs, and they jammed for us, and we stood there and listened. And
is that Jimmy T?
Jimmy T.
Nice.
Shout
out Jimmy T.
Nice.
Jimmy T. Kotz. And so then we started, and they were like, okay, well, you got some riffs. Let's see what you got, And I said, well, I got some riffs. And Jim's like, well, I got some riffs. And we started putting together a song on the first band practice. It's called Processions of Destruction. And it was on the first Vile demo. And it was later released on the European version of Stench of the Deceased. And so that song, and we wrote that song and we came back, the next weekend, and in a couple weekends or maybe 3 or something, we wrote that whole song. And
Nice.
we were like, okay, this is working. And these guys, they're not flaking. They're still there when we go. We call them and we say next Saturday or whatever, and they're there, and it's working, and songs going together. And so we did that for a while, and then we started to get them to come down to our practice studio in Concord, because Matt, the bassist, would have had to come from Oakland, and Aaron was in Concord. And so we got them to drive down. And that later became a problem, because it was a 45-minute drive one way and then a 45-minute drive back.
Yeah.
It later ended up to kind of some flaky stuff happening, just because life happens, not because they were big flakes, but just because life happens, and we're so far away.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's but we started practicing at the new place in Concord, and so it was me, it was Aaron Strong. No, so here it was me. It was Yeah, Aaron. Funny, it's interesting. Aaron was not the second. Oh, right. It was me, Jim on guitar, Mike on drums, Matt Favor on bass, and Juan on vocals. That's the original Vile band that was not on Stench of the Cease, but was on the first 2 demos.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jim left the band because he was drinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of it.
Hitting the ooze too much, yeah.
Huh?
Just hitting the ooze too much, the booze.
Yep. And not that he couldn't play, he could, but it ended up being he ended up getting into fights with Juan. And they ended up, not
like physical. Oh,
almost.
yeah.
Oh, damn.
With me one time at least, almost, or physical at some point. I remember Jim actually grabbed me by the neck and threw me up against the door.
Whoa.
He's bigger than me. And that was the end of it, actually. That was the final straw.
Yeah.
And see, now on this podcast, we're getting personal information stuff that's, about band members that I have mentioned before, and I have absolutely no hard feelings against any of the guys.
Yeah, it's in the past. I mean, things, in heated situations and stuff, sometimes things get out of control. And
it's in the past.
Water on the bridge.
Guys in their early 20s.
Guys in their early to mid 20s.
Yeah, we all,
And
just hitting the cheese super hard. Like, you never know what's going to happen if people are drinking too much.
Yeah, and truthfully, I think I would have. I think if it wasn't that me and Juan were both fighting with him, I think we would have worked out. But it just got too volatile, and I don't remember how the actual split was, but that was kind of the obvious end of the whole thing. I do remember Juan saying Jim owed Juan money. And I remember Juan holding on to one of his Marshall guitar cabs and saying, "You ain't getting this until you pay me." And he's like, "I don't have the money. I need my cabinet back." "Nope, you ain't getting it." I remember there was a whole kind of a deal there. And then so that happened, and then that started a kind of pull where that kind of started a psychic kind of a pull where unconsciously Mike started to kind of fall away from the band because Jim was out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 2 buddies and so Mikey has to have to come out to practice by himself. And so then that eventually led, and man, this was a major problem. This is a major breakup because we had been going to Milwaukee Metal Fest, and we had been progressing as a band, and we had Relapse even picked us up. We got picked up by Relapse.
Oh, right.
Wow. Early 2000, Relapse picked us up. Played Milwaukee Metal Fest 3 times on the Relapse stage, like 2 years in a row, and one time in San Antonio they had another gig, and everything was progressing great, but there was this feeling that Mike was somehow getting disinterested.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And later, everybody knows that knows Vile knows that Mike eventually left Vile and went and started jamming with Deeds of Flesh.
Right.
Yep.
And we had, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I had skipped here. We had toured with Deeds. And so then suddenly he just shows up at practice and says, "Guys, I'm out. I'm moving to San Luis Obispo. I'm going to join Deeds of Flesh. I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm.
And turns out there was all this stuff going on with personal stuff with him and his girlfriend and his family and all this other stuff. And I almost don't blame him. He just needed to get out of Dodge.
Right.
He needed to get out of Dodge. He's in his 20s. Everybody in their 20s is sleeping on couches or living here or there or doing whatever. And Mike's decision was, this is becoming hell for me in my personal life for a number of reasons. I got to get out of this area. I got to go.
Right.
Yep.
And Deeds of Flesh needed a drummer at the time, so he knew he could join them. And Deeds also took Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jim and Mike went and joined Deeds. and they both moved down to San Luis Obispo, and we were fucking pissed.
Yeah.
So because we're signed to Relapse and we're cruising, and these guys cut.
Right.
So one guy cuts, but Aaron came in to replace him, and then Mike cuts on us. Why? We just got signed to Relapse. Why are you cutting on us? So that caused a major rift. There was a major rift there, and there was other drama that ensued after that, and there was we were pissed. And so in the meantime, we got dropped from Relapse because we couldn't get the album together in time, and they decided to go in a different direction. And so that was a major thing. Now, I have no problems with Mike whatsoever. He's a friend and everything, and maybe Mike can sometime talk about what was going on at the time. Mm-hmm. But it almost, it almost doesn't matter because it's just what musicians in their 20s do. It's like Dave Mustaine and Metallica's story.
Right.
And it's like, this is just what people do at that age when they're trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do with their lives. And
it's really not worth giving any extreme energy to anybody's past because it's all memories that we're just conjuring up again now on a live podcast. It really isn't anything that matters today.
And your children back then, your children, like, it's like, you don't know how to deal with, like, when you deal with things, you deal with it. Like, if you put in retrospect how you deal with things now versus like your 20s, like it's insane.
If only I could have responded to the situation as I would now back then, which was just a kind of an infantile, just slamming the door in his face and saying F you and screw you and us, and all, just being mad, and all that, and holding on to anger for several years.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, though, it's, I've thought about the whole situation a lot, and there was other things that happened in Vile with other musicians, and I think that was a big thing because Relapse signed Nile before, and they signed Origin, they signed Cephalic Carnage, they signed us. And we were like, okay, we're going to be like those bands. We got a career now. We're going to be touring. We're going to be doing all this stuff. And we got something going on. And then, boom, right there, it broke. Right. And then within a few months of that happening, maybe it was not a few months. It was about a year. Within a year of that happening, we ended up getting dropped. Now, I found Tyson. Because of Derek Boyer, the bassist for Now Suffocation, then deprecated.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Derek Boyer,
Decrepit Birth.
Was from San Diego. Yep. And he told us about Tyson. So I went down to San Diego. I met Tyson, and I had heard his early band, and started jamming with Tyson. And I was,
Who was he playing with before that?
It was called Obelisk.
Okay.
Little band that he had going on, and that's how I got to hear he could play. And I started going down there, driving down there 10 hours, and jamming in his garage and putting together Depopulate. And we took 3 songs that we had written with Mike, and then we he learned those first, and then we put another 6 or 7 together or whatever, and put together Depopulate. And I would go down there once a month and stay for the weekend. I'd bring all my stuff, all my riffs, and we'd put together a song. And that's when Relapse was like, you guys got that album done yet? And we're like, no, it's when is it going to be out? It's going to be at least another 6 months. And they're like, okay, well, listen, we're going to go in another direction. We're signing Dillinger Escape Plan and other stuff, and we're not not doing that. Andy Hosner, the A&R guy that signed all of us death metal bands, he's gone now, and so we're doing something else at Relapse. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that just made me angrier about the whole situation. But we got signed to Listenable, French label, which is good label.
Yeah.
And we got on Unique Leader for America, for North American distribution. And so that's that label they're totally involved in the scene and everything.
And they re-released Stench of the Deceased too, right?
No, they didn't. They just put
okay.
out Depopulate, and then the one after that, New Age of Chaos.
So what was the I'm cutting forward, but you had a re-release of Stench of the Deceased again, right? Did it come on? Did it come out on
came out in
2000,
2003. Yeah, listenable record signed Depopulate. They put that out. Then they re-released Stench of the Deceased the next year. I guess it would have been 2004, something like that, 3 or 4. They re-released that, and that we had a 3-album deal with them. And then they did New Age of Chaos. And so the band went forward, and everything worked out. We started doing tours, European tours, and everything is the way it's supposed to be, and everything's fine. But and it's almost like I look back at it, and it's almost like the whole split where we got dropped from Relapse and where Mike and Jim left, and the whole split was indicative. This is on a more spiritual matter way of looking at it. It was indicative of my own split in my own consciousness about being a professional musician.
Yeah.
And what really happened there was that split where those guys left and the label dropped us was kind of a preamble to not only the other guys in Vile eventually leaving a couple of years later, but my own decision not to become a hardcore touring musician.
Yeah.
I saw the lifestyle of van touring life.
Right.
And I said, no, I'm not doing this. And so if I had gone on the whole Relapse thing, I remember talking to Origin, they had already done like 10 U.S. van tours before they even went to Europe for Relapse. They were working the hell out of those guys. And they were eating, peanut butter and jelly on white bread and stuff, and sleeping in the van and all this. And I'm just like, no, I want better treatment than that. And it was fine to do 4 or 5 of those, but then that was it. So what really was happening with the split is it was almost like this is just a split that was going to happen anyway. This was going to happen anyway. The Vile was going to have to go from being 5 buddies that are all living in Concord doing this thing together to doing me running the band as a brand kind of and hiring people in for every project. That would have happened anyway, no matter what had happened. I wasn't ready for it to happen at the time, but it would have happened. I would have been on Relapse, and I would have just been telling them, I don't want to do this anymore. So really, it all is just the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah. So how long after Depopulate came out did we tour together? When did Depopulate come out?
I think it was
2002.
Oh, okay. So it was, because we toured, 2006 together?
Yeah.
We already had the next one out, New Age of Chaos. And in those days...
Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah.
In those days, 3 years to put out an album was a long-ass time.
Yeah.
It was like, guys, why is it taking you so long?
Yeah.
And now, to put out an album in 3 years, that's quick.
Yep.
So putting an album out every 3 years, you're moving along.
So the lineup that so New Age of Chaos, what was that lineup?
So New Age of Chaos now was Tyson on drums, Juan on vocals, me, and actually it was during that Matt, the original bass player, had left, and he just he made the same decision I made, basically, that I don't want to be stuck in the van all the time.
Right.
And so he saw that was where it was going, and he left a little earlier, and he actually left he left in 2002. Actually, he played on half of Depopulate, and I had another guy, a guy we knew named Lars, play the other bass. Great bassist. He did that. So he had already been gone for a while, and so Jack Gibson, the Exodus bassist, he lived in the neighborhood right across from my studio. I had a studio next to Juan. Me and Juan both had a studio in that same area in Pacheco, technically. And Jack lived across the street, and so Jack started to. I asked him, "Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to play? Do you want to?" And I don't remember how I approached him or whatever. He agreed to do it, and every weekend he came over. He kind of learned the material at home a little bit, and he came over and just tracked the bass every weekend, another song, until that was done. So he was the bassist on New Age of Chaos, and then I needed a bass player. What did I do after that? Who played bass? I think Matt came back is what it was.
Oh, okay.
Did you have Jeff Hugel in the band for a while?
Yeah, and then I just remembered. So then there was, okay, I'm kind of giving you the big steps and like the big dramas going on, but there was all kinds of little things that were going on in the meantime. Jeff Hewell, who later plays in 6 Feet Under, he was in the band for about a year and a half, from 2000 to about 2001, something like that. There's Marco Petrozella.
Oh yeah.
Plays
Another
drums.
1600 person.
He played for us in 2006.
That's sick, dude. It all goes around and round, dude.
Reno Kielerich, the Danish drummer Reno.
I've seen you guys with Reno. I've seen you guys with Tyson.
Yep. Jacoby from Deeds of Flesh
Who
told
was the
us
guy on
about
tour?
Reno.
Who'd you have? You had Lance. Remember?
Then
Lance?
we had Lance. Lance Wright. He played drums on the
so
tour that
I kind of
we did.
wanted to get into that, because I befriended your lineup on tour.
Yeah, Erland and
Bloodletting. What was it? Yeah, dude. Like, I want to know all that.
Like the best bass player in the world you had on your fucking.
How did you find Lance? How'd you find Erland? And then how'd you find the brothers, Mike and JJ?
The guitar player guy too. Who's that guy's name? That was like the shredder, guitar player guy.
Luke.
His name Luke.
Shredder guitar player.
JJ?
Yeah, that was like. Oh no, that was Deeds of Flesh. Oh my God, I'm.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was the guy named
JJ.
Sean played in Deeds of Flesh.
Sean played in Deeds.
Yeah, so this is what happened is Vile went from being, more or less the same kind of guys and different incarnations of Entropy, Lords of Chaos. Matt was also in another band called Thanatopsis. They're kind of more or less Bay Area death metal guys and East Bay guys. And it went from that kind of tribe to me basically getting whoever I could get from wherever I could get anywhere in the world. Whoever could make it work, and we could take these tours or make an album. And Vile switched over from being a regular band to a band to where I'm probably the guys that are in the band now. There's probably been 30 guys in Vile now.
Yeah. Yep.
So, so a lot of guys came in, they would do one tour, or they would play on the album, or I would kind of try to restrict the album stuff to the guys that were going to be in the band more seriously.
Yeah.
So, and that's.
So Erland is obviously just like hearing Blood Red Throne. Is that the type of deal that was going on?
Yeah.
Or?
So I guess I could just go, just for the history of it, I could go, okay, so Stench of the Deceased, we described the original band members, and then Depopulate is the same, more or less the same band members, except Tyson on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's New Age of Chaos, and again that's then it's me, Tyson, and Juan, and so it's kind of more or less the same, but Jack's playing bass. That's the end of the kind of main kind of deal there. And then the tours, though, were different because not everybody would be interested in doing the tours. So there was a 2003. Okay, well, there was the early tours with Deeds and stuff in the United States and all the Milwaukee Metal Fests and all that stuff. But in 2003, there was a European tour, and that was the original band that was on Depopulate, but without Tyson. He was going to college, and that would be Reno playing drums.
Okay, Reno.
Panzer Christ.
Panzer Christ. Ex Mortem.
What was the Ex Mortem?
Ex Order? No, Ex Mortem.
Ex Mortem. You're right. Yeah.
Yep. And so that's that tour, 2003, and then there's 2004, Cannibal Corpse, and that's Reno, but that time it's Erlen playing bass, and it's Reno, and it's me. And
so Erlen's already on with the Cannibal tour.
Erlen's is he? No, Christ, he's not. It's Matt. It's Matt Favor, the original bass player, back again. He's kind of coming and going depending on what he wants to do, and so there's that, and so okay. So it's me, it's Juan, it's Matt Favor on bass. It's Reno on drums, and it is Erlen on bass, and it is Luke Yeager on guitars.
Okay.
And I found him through posting on MySpace or Facebook or something,
Yeah.
And so I went up to Seattle once and jammed with him once, and he just learned everything. Then he came down and we
met Luke at actually. It's been talked about many times on the show, but we used in Santa Cruz, not me, but Joel and Casey used to stay at a house together, and we used to have house parties and shows there, and brought Sleep Terror out for
one of the first shows.
Yeah, it's like one of the first and last shows that we had at that place because it got wild.
For Sleep Terror though, I think it was one of their first shows.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. And that's where we met Luke too, and
Dave from Cattle. David from Cattle.
Yeah, David McGraw. Dave McGraw. From Cattle.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
he was the drummer of Sleep Terror.
So wild, dude. And I love this intertwining thing that once you're in the bubble, it starts to just weave into itself. You know?
Right. Yep, that's it's the certain scene, and once you're in the scene and you're at the level of pro musicians who are committing,
right?
Yeah. Then everybody knows each other, and then it starts to go. It was what happened was something happened with where most bands kind of stick to their own state or their own nation or whatever to get their guys, but I first went to Europe in 1999 physically went there in 99 with some of the guys in 40 Grit and Tilo Fellinger and Skin Lab. I tagged along. The Skin Lab was going to play the Dynamo Fest. And 40 Grit was going to play at the Dynamo Club, not the Fest, but they were going to play at the Dynamo Club with SOD, and they were going to make a trip out of it. And their manager, this famous woman named Debbie Abono from the Bay Area, she managed Possessed originally and some other Bay Area bands. She brought them over there.
I think we've heard about her on the show previously too.
Yep, Debbie.
This is the second time.
Debbie Abono. Debbie Abono. Yeah, she was a Bay Area thrash metal manager woman, and she brought 40 Grit out there and Skin Lab. Or they went out on their own, and we're all kind of tagging along. I went with that, and I went out there and I met a bunch of Dutch metalheads, and then I went back out in 2002 or something, a couple years later, just to kind of network. And I was hanging out with the guys from a Dutch band called Mangled.
Yeah.
Mangled, which is like Cannibal style kind of death metal. Mangled. And then I was out there in 2002 just kind of hanging. And they were putting together their own European tour, and they said, "Hey, well, why doesn't Vile headline this tour?" And we had just put out Depopulate, and I'm like, "Well, Vile's never been to Europe before. Vile's not a headliner, guys. And they're like, no, Vile is a headliner. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, you don't know. We're all listening to Depopulate. Everybody wants that album, and you guys are a headliner for sure. I was like, okay. And
That's awesome.
so they put guy named Wilco put together the tour. Him and another guy named Rob. They put the tour together, and it was Vile headlining. It was Disavowed as support.
Wow.
Nice. It was Mangled for under them for 2 weeks of the tour, and another Dutch band called Inhume.
Yeah.
For the other 2 weeks of the tour. And then it was Spawn of Possession from Sweden as the opener.
Shout out Spawn.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that was 2003. That was March, April of 2003.
What a killer fucking lineup, dude.
And that's where I got Reno to do that.
Nice.
And so from that point on, from hanging out with these Dutchies and getting Reno in the band and all that, I realized that I can get people from anywhere in the world. Yes. They can learn the album. They can fly out, or I can fly out. I can meet them, a week before the tour.
You've expanded your grid.
Expanded my grid, and I'm like, okay, I'm international now, and I can pull from wherever. And that's and then that kind of just ended up going in that direction. Yeah.
So with Erlen though, because Erlen's one of my favorite people that I've met in my life. In doing this style of music, touring and all that shit. Like Erlen, I want you on the show, bro. Your English
he doesn't want to. He's kind of shyer. He's a little shy. Yeah. Like, I get that's that's how his style is.
We talked face to face. I talked face to face with you for a month, dude. You can sit and talk to me.
Yeah, he's a little shy, but I mean, he should be able to do it.
He was on our list for a long time. We wanted to talk to him, and just because he's such a phenomenal player, dude. And so I want to know, like, obviously, it may have been Blood Red Throne that you started sniffing that Erland bass playing, right?
How did I find out about Erland? I probably found out about him from Deeds.
Okay.
Because they were kind of like our main. They knew everybody in the whole international death metal scene.
Yeah.
And at first we were mad at them, but then after we got over that, then they signed us on their label, and they Jacoby Kingston, he turned us on to Reno. And he probably turned us on, or one of those guys probably turned us on to Erland. And that's probably how, because I don't remember hearing Blood Red Throne before I met him.
So it was through Jacoby.
It was through I'm just guessing it was through somebody in Deeds that it was because Erland didn't know Reno. Reno's from Denmark. Erland's from Norway. They didn't know each other, and they probably heard of each other, but they didn't know each other. And so I don't remember how that was. But also, that tour, that Cannibal Corpse tour, the way that happened was that I was friends with Eric Rutan. Because Eric was he was getting into recording and building a recording studio while me and Juan were also doing it. We actually opened for Morbid Angel at the Maritime Hall in San Francisco once.
Oh, nice.
And Eric was playing guitar.
Sick.
And Eric saw us play, and he's like, dude, I have a new recording. Eric talks, dude, I got this new recording studio. Somebody can do a better imitation. There it is right there.
I thought
that's it.
He just muted himself when he's talking.
Yeah.
That was the best move ever.
Hey, what's up? I thought my imitation of Eric Rutan was like like a C minus, but Joel just presented like an A minus.
Well, every time you see him, he's like, dude, you can't fucking miss these shows, man. I mean, I don't know. It's been so long. But he was
I got some great Eric Rutan stories. I got so many great stories. It's all been about. This has all been about Vile and the nitty gritty for people that like Vile and stuff. But it's more fun probably to talk about stories from the whole death metal scene.
Yes,
and
for sure, man.
But I'll just to sum it up, Eric saw us play. We opened for Morbid Angel, and he says like, I want to produce your band, and I was like, great, but me and Juan, we're already recording engineers, and we have already recorded our first album, and blah blah blah, and it's so he's like, oh, okay, but then we just traded numbers and would always talk and about studio equipment and stuff like that. So Cannibal was going to have Hate Eternal open for that tour. And that was 2004. And that would have been what tour would have that been? The album. A Spawn of the Wretched Spawn.
Oh,
the
Wretched Spawn. Yeah.
No, Gore Obsessed. Gore Obsessed or Wretched Spawn, something like that.
Wretched Spawn.
Yeah.
It would have been, that was it. And I think Eric was going to do it. And then Eric couldn't do it for some reason. And Eric called me. And he was just like, bro, I just talked to Alex, and we were going to do this tour, and we can't. And I mentioned you guys. And so Alex might call you. And so you better do this, bro. And I was like, yeah, man, my band is totally falling apart right now. I mean, we did this one tour where it's like all these people from all over the place. Other guys have quit since then. He's like, you better put the band together, man. You better do this. And I was like, you're right. I'm going to do it. And so I did. Alex did call, and I did say, I told him the truth of what was going on with the band and stuff. And I said, but I can do it. I can put it together. No problem. I can make it work. And he's like, okay, great. You're in. And so then I had to scramble, and I had to call Reno back. And that's where somehow I found Erlin's number and the attraction why I was easy or relatively easy to get musicians was because, well, for the guys overseas, it was like, you get to come to America and tour with Cannibal Corpse. And you're totally into the scene, and this is your life, and of course you're going to do that. And so I was able to put that together, and we did that tour. And it was James Lee that did the vocals of Origin.
He's messaging me right now. He's like, tell Colin I said what's up, blah blah. And I was like, jump on the stream. Yeah. He's like, I don't have internet right now. But yeah, James Lee says
yeah.
He didn't have the internet.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I told him, I'm like, you have a phone, right? Like, what's going on? Come on.
That's a little tidbit I didn't know. I didn't know James did vocals for you guys for a little bit.
Lee, because I had recorded the second Origin album in 2002. So I knew that James he did all his vocals in 2 days.
Triple I.
He was so prepared. He did all his vocals in 2 days. He just showed up and just did all his parts perfect. And so I knew he was pro. And when it came to doing his parts, he was gonna be able to do it. And so he said yes to it, and he pulled it off. And different kind of voice than what we had been used to. Different kind of voice than Juan, but people loved it, and everybody knew James. He was kind of a cult classic figure in the scene. So that was that tour. That was 2004. And then the New Age of Chaos came out 2005. And we did, what did we do for that? We did, in 2006, we first did Europe with Monstrosity, Deeds of Flesh, Us, and Impaled.
Oh, nice.
I knew Impaled just from having recorded them, and so I said, these are fun guys, and these guys will do it, and they'll sacrifice, and they'll pay their own way.
Shout out Ross, love you, dude.
Yeah, those are great guys, and we did that, and so that was 2000. Okay, and then that summer, just a few months later, then we did the one with you guys, the U.S. one with right, Decrepit, Odious, Deeds, us,
dude.
and
yes,
that was it. Yeah,
that was our first tour. That was our first national tour. We did like little tiny mini tours before that. So that was our first introduction to anything past Arizona.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be
or New
Deeds.
Mexico.
It was supposed to be Deeds, Vile, and then Decrepit, and then Psychroptic.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Whoa, we took Psychroptic spot. I didn't even know that, dude.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I don't. This is.
I just hung out with those guys a couple days
If
ago.
I remember, if we
Anthony,
talked about
it's
it,
okay. We're old. It's okay. We're old.
Dude.
It was like 20 years ago now. This is fucked up.
I'm just
that's like this sucks. Like time is flying by so fast.
Not yet,
it's
dude.
insane.
I'm hanging on to it, dude. It's not yet.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
I mean,
okay, so I know that you may have different feelings about it, Colin, because I remember you saying earlier that you were stressed and all that stuff.
and you've been on tours before us.
I always got stressed on tours because I was having to be the guitarist and the band manager.
Yeah.
And drive the van and do everything, you know.
Right, right.
And I was always kind of. I still get stressed. At running. The one tour, the Monstrosity one in Europe that same year, we had a company did the tour. The guy's name is Marius, the guy from a Polish guy, and great guy, runs this label. I'm trying to remember what it is right now, but he put it together. He had his own bus and everything. And they had a Polish crew, 3 guys, somebody doing merch, somebody doing stage managing, and somebody doing sound, and a driver. And we were chilling. And I was, everybody gets their own bunk, and there's help loading up gear and everything. And you're just a musician. You're not running it. You're not driving. You're not doing all that. And that was really nice. And I said to myself, well, if I can do things this way on the bus, changes the
ball game. Yeah,
the ball game for sure. And I thought to myself, I'd be more interested in going this direction if it unfolds this way. But it didn't. And so back to van touring. And so van touring was always very stressful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's why I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, you're shoved into a small little area with 4 or 5 other dudes, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up was you had already been seasoned at the time that we toured together. Mm-hmm. And us talking about how this was our first tour, we were totally just like, dude, we're fucking on tour, dude.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I'm eating granola for the last 2 days.
Well, we're seeing parts of the United States we've never seen together, and we're all friends. We're like close friends.
What did I say? What did I say? What did I say?
The one thing I do, Colin, the one thing I do remember about you is going through. We were going through the Canadian border to Vancouver.
Oh yeah,
and I decided to jump in your guys' van. And everyone just got their butthole searched or whatever on the left, and they just waved you through, and I was like, fucking glad I'm in this van. Like, this is the best van ever.
Right, and then there was the whole thing with the bass player who had that warrant out for his arrest, and that whole thing.
Which one?
Do you remember?
We don't.
No. He's
so he's the unnamed dude that we don't
guitar player.
give any. Yeah,
of a Decrepit
guitar player.
Yeah.
Guitar player.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Because Richo was bass player. Yeah. Fuck that guy. But anyways, let's not go into that.
It's pretty entertaining. You don't want to mention what happened?
No, I mean for what? No, not really. I mean, Colin. God damn it.
I mean, what these podcasts, just lay it all out on the table, right? I mean, I already did about the situation of the band.
Well, I know that he couldn't go in because of previous felony.
Yeah, like felony.
What was it for?
It was for he killed someone.
He killed someone, dude.
Did he?
Yeah, he was.
I thought it was child molestation.
That is the next one, dude.
Well, first of all,
he got back from the bathroom. What are you guys talking about?
Just speak on it because let's just.
We're excited.
He was in the band for like first 8-9 months, and he was just a fill-in live guitar player. He
Right.
wasn't like, I mean,
I had no problems with him. I remember he was a nice guy, for what I remember, right?
Yeah, which is crazy, which shows you how people can hide their shit.
Have you seen the Jeffrey Dahmer show? Have you seen the
Yeah. No, he was very calculated.
Was
he was
a nice guy.
Right.
Having a friend like that in your group and then finding that out was the next.
You're really going here right now. Oh my god.
I mean, he brought it up, Colin.
No. I have no problem with it. No, 100%.
Here it is.
I'm
just saying the killing the person. It was over a fight, and he punched some dude, and he fucking fell and hit his head, and he died. But then the other shit was it did get uncovered during that tour, and we were like, yo, you were in our like circle, and out of here, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
We haven't even gone there.
Never mentioned it. No, he was like, because he lied to us. He lied to me and Casey, and it was like, he told us like, oh, my wife caught me cheating, and so we felt bad for him.
Shaking right now thinking about it.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
So Casey, it's all good. It's all good.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just saying.
So we got infiltrated.
This tends to happen with me because I'm very available for talking about stuff that's either embarrassing or you would want to sweep under the rug or the old stuff. I'm very available to like open up that stuff and go, okay, let's go in there. I'm that kind of person.
And I'm actually that dude too, because that guy had no part of any art that I made, you know.
It was just a random dude that was in Santa Cruz that was like friends with that group and was in the band for a short period of time to like as a live person, right? And we thought we became cool with him because he was nice, and then we got lied to, and then it was a nightmare,
and that goes
probably
back
the worst thing we've ever done. It's the worst thing we've ever been through.
People can hide
the
real shit very well, dude.
This is that takes you into the world of politics now, because that's where they're professional hiders.
I know.
Of their of their junk.
Yeah.
But the point is that it was at the border of Canada where some of you guys, I don't know which van or whatever that he was in, that's where everything got stopped, and it was like, okay, pull everything out of the van. You guys are okay. You go over there and wait, and we're gonna, basically,
wasn't in my van, dude.
Almost strip search everybody.
We were kind of going into the border of Canada was literally hilarious for me because we're posing as your guys' roadies. That's what we.
Oh, that's right. Remember, Eric told us like all the merch is for free. It's all
there wasn't a visa for Odious, dude. You got to get the work visas if you're going to go do a tour in another country.
They're also going to count you in. They're going to tax you on what you're charging for everyone, and then when you come back out, so if you have merchandise, I think they still do this too. By the way, if you're a band, you're like, I want to go play Canada, and you don't know about this. If you go to the border, they'll be like, oh, we're going to count how much you selling these shirts for. It's like $20 a piece, and they count 20, 40, 60, 80.
You're going to be taxed right there.
Taxed, you pay fucking $2,000, and then we'll count you back in when you can give you the remainder back out.
We stuffed all our as many shirts as we could into Casey's drum kit. That's what we did.
What are you talking about? I don't know.
All of our
no, it never happened.
Casey, don't fuck around, dude. In Toronto, we had to take your drum kit apart and whole fucking t-shirt. What do you think, dude? The statute of limitations, dude. What are you doing? We're talking about.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's all good.
I don't care.
We literally, this is how we had to do it. We had a stack of CDs.
Yeah.
We stuffed all the t-shirts into Casey's drum kit, and with the CDs, we said they were promotional items.
Makes this kick sound better, dude.
More tight. It's like
I literally remember showing up to Toronto and having to disassemble your kit. In order for us to disassemble your kit so we can get all of our merch out of it, dude. We literally stuffed it in as hard as we could, dude.
Yep. That increasingly started to happen in the early 2000s because in the 90s, bands were just traveling. They were going everywhere with their stuff. I remember even going to, the first European tour, going to Europe with we had a huge, one or maybe two actual giganto duffel bags just packed with stuff that we had made here. And I remember just walking through, and in the Amsterdam airport, it says, douana, no douana or whatever, and no douana, no customs. We just walk right through. Okay, hi, no problem. Walk right through. And nobody ever stopped us going from country to country or anything like that. And it wasn't until 2006 that I remember that actually happened in some countries. And I remember it started to become a thing. And basically governments started to figure out that all this international touring was they were getting ripped, and they
wanted their cut.
Yeah.
We've had a time when me and Casey, like later on joined Decrepit, where we hit the border and they were like, yeah, you got to pay like $3,000. And we were like, we didn't have that money.
Dude?
Yeah, we didn't have the money. It was on Summer Slaughter tour too. It's like Summer Slaughter, like thousands of people. And they're just like, you have to pay the $3,000 up front. And we're just like, we don't have it. So we can't do the Canadian shows. Like we just,
really?
Yeah, we literally couldn't do it. No, we didn't go in. It was like one or two. It was in the middle of Canada. Though. It was like I don't know, Ottawa or something. It was in the we were like going through Montana to get to Canada, and
couldn't just store your stuff in a storage shed in Montana and then just go.
I know we didn't. We
merch?
were. It was already like we have to. Summer Slaughter is you leave the show at 2 a.m. and if you stop or if you sleep, you're gonna miss the show.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, it wasn't gonna work. Yeah, not
possible. Like routing was like fucked. Like it was. It's the most like hardworking man's blue collar tour. Like you are doing the fucking show, staying maybe till the end. Usually you're not, and then you have to jump right in your fucking van and get there to the next show, or else you're late. Like you have to. Like there's no sleeping. There's no like, oh, let's pull over to a Walmart and sleep. There's none of that. It's like you got to keep going, and so you had to really have like the regiment of drivers down, because it was like. Because you had to go, okay, you were the last one. All right, well, you're going to sleep, and then you're going to do next. And it was
everybody's pissing in Gatorade bottles, and you just really have to stop if somebody has to shit. Yeah. That's it, dude.
Right. Yeah, if someone has to really shit, you stop. But if someone has to kind of shit, I'm like, no, you're holding.
No, hold it, dude.
Yeah.
Eat granola and hold it, dude.
Yeah. And then you get to the venue, because load-ins at Summer Slaughter was 11 a.m.
Oh, God, yeah.
So it was like, they'd be 10-hour drives, 12-hour drives. You have to be there at 11 a.m. I'm like, dude, how do you even do that? Like, I don't even understand.
That's the bullshit I'm talking about.
Yeah. That was tough.
With the bus tour, you just drive all night. The driver pulls in front of the club.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's like his job.
What a luxury, dude.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's also $1,000 a day. But
I know, but
I mean, that's a really rad $1,000 a day. That's
yeah.
$1,000 a day. It's like sick.
But you can. We had in the one we did in 2006. We had 30 people in the bus. 30.
Yeah. Just stuff everyone in.
So you literally have 4 bands in there.
Did you get a bunk?
Yeah, and
nice, dude. And out of 30 people, you get a bunk. That's
I think there was 29 bunks, and it was the merch guy, the Polish merch guy that had to take the floor or whatever somehow.
Wow, dude, 29 bunks on one bus. That's
Well, I mean, that's European, right? It's got to be a European one, right?
It was. What's the guy's name? The manager for Behemoth or for Vader?
Brovar. Was it Brovar?
His name is Mariusz.
Oh, okay.
And it's what's the name of the? I'm trying to think the name of the company right now, but anyway, he owned it, and
I think we got brought up by it was Cryptopsy and Decrepit and Unmerciful. We got taken on one of those tours, the double-decker bus.
Yeah,
and it was like one of those where you're basically like
2 levels.
Our time in Europe, basically.
Yeah.
Tour.
It was crew was like in a hole.
Tour bus.
No, the crew was in a hole in the back. Like the Polish crew, it was the Behemoth crew. They were all in like a hole that opened up in the back, and they made this own section of like where it's supposed to be storage, but they made it into beds and stuff like that for them to sleep. But they were insane.
They're insane. That's hardcore right there. The crew guys, the
savage
Polish crew guys.
Oh yeah,
death metal.
Those guys are more metal than all the people.
Dude. They are brutal.
Is it this guy, Colin? I can't say his name. Marius Kimzolik.
Yeah. What's the company called?
What's the Sick Drummer probably knows. Ian probably knows.
What's called?
He'll hit it up.
It's called starts with a B. Well, I can't remember.
It's a brutal.
He might come to us.
It's not no brutal in there. I don't think.
But either way, dude, that's
no. It's I know what it is. It's Massive Management.
Oh, shit.
Massive.
Where does he say it?
Oh shit.
Mariusz, massive booking, massive management, massive. He handles a lot of the Polish guys. He's an old school guy. He's a badass. He's great. He's a great person.
Massive Management.
Yep. Yes. He's hardcore, and he's got these guys that work for him, and they are hardcore.
Well, yeah,
they're very pro too. The tour guys that did that tour.
That sounds so much like no matter what, we're gonna make it happen, dude. We're gonna fit 29 people, as comfortably as we can on a double-decker bus.
Don't complain.
Yeah. They just do their thing, and they go in there just like stuffed in there like rats in a cage, and at the end of the night they just fucking tug.
So what is it like? What is it like
rad? Like, like it's so rad. Like coming to Europe, like as an American, and like doing things, and just like going on tour and stuff, and just like we're tough and all this, and these European dudes are just like 10 times tougher. Dude,
just
the
like, Polish. Look at Vader.
I was just like, exactly. We toured with Vader.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we toured with those guys when we were in Europe, and then also in Vader. Like, like we did a tour with Vader and Decrepit and stuff. And
Vog was a guitar player too.
Respect to the Polish.
Shout out.
Like, Polish dudes are tough as fuck. They're
tough.
Yeah. They're just workers.
Badass.
They get shit done.
They are workers. Those Vader guys, you can't work any harder than those guys. Those are the hardest. That's got to be the hardest working band in the world of death metal. Got to be.
Oh yeah.
And I apologize, like I've said a million times on this podcast, but I would like, Cryptopsy had their writer, but I was like, where's they get all the alcohol? And I would get like lock cutters and clip off the lock off the alcohol, and I would drink.
Didn't you on the Cryptopsy episode? You told them that you.
I told them. I know they were pissed, but whatever. But it's fine. But I mean, Brovar was. I see still the Behemoth's #1 roadie guy. We did a couple shows.
Oh, Brovar.
You know Brovar. Yeah.
We know Brovar. He was the manager. He was the tour manager of that.
Yeah. No, he's still with them. So anytime they come into town, I'll be like, "What's up?" He's all, "Come hang out." But I'm usually with like a bunch of people, and I'm like, "I'm not going to bring these people backstage right now. It's not going to be. You don't need to see how boring it is back there right now."
Yeah.
You want to see a bunch of people on computers and being like, "Oh, yes, thank you very much. I appreciate you."
I think the main point is like how like much tougher people are from like other countries sometimes. We're like Americans. We're like so like we have this like shelf like we have very cushioned lives, like we're like
Oh, Casey, this was the drum tech. Remember Thomas from remember that guy?
Thomas?
And
then, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. You remember him? Remember Tony the Tiger? Who was Tony the Tiger?
Tony the Tiger.
There was a guy named Tony the Tiger that literally he would get so drunk at the end of the night that he was one of their techs for Cryptopsy, and I think he was working for Behemoth. He can get so drunk that he could literally stand like parallel to the ground, just fall directly on his face. And on his back.
You guys played video of that, dude.
Yeah.
Guys,
he's a boxer.
I think I'm nearing exit point soon. Not now, but within the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Let's fast forward to now.
Yeah.
So now Vile was quiet for a little bit, and now you've decided to resurrect it.
Right. Let's just really quickly. So after the 2006 tours. 2006, I think there was a 2007 one with James Lee and Tyson playing drums, an American one that was that was even a different one even. I don't even remember that. For some reason, I do not remember that tour. James had to remind me of it. I wasn't getting drunk or anything. I can't remember it.
It just got out of your memory somehow.
And then nothing. And then I was because I'm doing Imperial mastering, right? So I'm doing audio engineering, right? So I'm making a living as an audio engineer. And so I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do the band, it's going to be good. It's not going to be, I saw the hardcore side of it and I saw the good side of it. And I'm like, I want to do the good side of it. I want to do the easier side, the cruiser side that's less stressful. And is actually fun,
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
And those just weren't appearing. Those situations weren't appearing. There were some hardcore van tours that were offered. You know, there's always, hey, you know, you want to do this, you know, this underground van tour, you know, with underground bands, whether you can headline or not, you know, you're going to be, it's going to be brutal. And so I was just turning those down, and I was just doing mixing, mastering, and just kind of doing my own thing. And just, and I wasn't writing music as fast anymore. And I was running out of riffs. I was saying to myself, oh, this sounds like the one off of New Age. Oh, this sounds like Depopulate. Oh, this sounds like this. And I'm like, what? Where the hell? And so and a lot of bands will just keep going. Okay, whatever. It's not the same. It's close, but and I was like, no, I want something original. I want to put out another album that's original. And what ended up coming out, and it took me 6 years to put it together, was this album called Metamorphosis, which was on Encyclopedia Metallium. They call it melodic death metal. That's what they called it. And it got, it was the worst reviewed album of all 4 of our albums.
Really?
And yeah, it was a worst reviewed one because it was the slowest one. It was kind of clicked down to kind of like Morbid Angel, Blessed Are the Sick, or Death, Individual Thought Patterns, that kind of that speed. It was kind of clicked down a little bit slower. It had a lot of melodic riffs that were kind of lighter, kind of just more, it sounded more like Euro metal kind of. It was a little more melodic sounding. It had a lot of melody riffs. And it wasn't as brutal. Like if Depopulate is the example of brutality, then New Age of Chaos is more melodic than that. And then Metamorphosis is even more melodic than that. And I liked the album. I liked the songs because to me it was something new. It was like, okay, it's still vile, it's still death metal. And this is where Mike Rabovchek comes in, because we didn't mention the Rabovchek brothers, JJ and Mike.
Yeah, I tried to bring up earlier.
That's how you say the last name?
Yeah, it's
the H is silent.
Yeah, so it's Rub, R-U-B-O-V, Rubov. C-Z-A-K is Czech.
Okay. I was like, Mike Huberbach.
Yes, C-Z is like ch.
I was saying Mike and JJ and hope somebody else knows who I'm talking about.
Damn,
Monstrosity. And
Mike and JJ, they should have come up with stage names, you know, so you just like Corpse Grinder or whatever. Like
JJ is pretty good. Just JJ is pretty good.
JJ, yeah. So, and those are the greatest guys. And so they were, I guess I'm going to have to stay on a little longer because there's a whole episode with those guys. So those guys came in for the 2006 and 7 tours. And when we did Decrepit Birth, Odious, well, who was the singer on that?
That was Mike and JJ.
It's Mike and okay, it was. They were
Mike, JJ, and Lance, and then me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mike and JJ, so Mike and JJ were in the band at that point, and then Mike sang, and JJ was also appeared on Metamorphosis, and then we did we did Europe in 2012 with a Brazilian band called Lacerated and Carbonized. It's kind of like Christian type, you know, the Brazilian bands.
Yeah, fuck yeah, awesome.
And who else was on that tour? Can't remember, but we did that. We did that one 2012, and then we did Japan in 2013, and but JJ couldn't do those. JJ joined Hate Eternal.
Hate Eternal, that's right. Yeah.
And so Mike did the singing, and we got Justin Sakogawa from the Bay Area, who's a shredder guitar player from the Bay Area, to play. He joined the band in 2012, and we did 2 Metamorphosis tours, 1 Europe, 1 Japan. Oh, and we did a West Coast thing too in America, and that was what we did with that. And
I saw you guys at this festival in LA. What was it called, in 2014 or something like that? It was it was like Gorgasm, Vile.
We didn't play that.
2013, 14. No, you definitely did. I think it was a Sunday. I saw you. I hung out with you and we hung out. It was 2013 or no,
We
2013
played?
or 14. It was in LA. It was one festival. It was Gorgasm.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That happened. That was
Was that a one-off?
That was this three shows that we did.
Okay.
We did those 3 shows. We did Japan. We did Europe. That's all we did for that whole Metamorphosis tour. Okay. And Mike Robovchek was in the band at that time. JJ did some of the earlier stuff, and Mike is the all around the top. He's just the best.
His art is insane too.
Yeah, he's just the best. He's very professional, and reliable, and he's got a great range, and he's great on stage, and he handles all his band responsibilities, whatever those are. He handles them all, and he's a good communicator. He doesn't hold stuff back. He's great. And his brother's great too. I love them both. They're both great. They're fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love
total
JJ
professionals. Yeah, they're great. So so that was the Metamorphosis deal, and that it didn't get as good of reviews because a lot of people wanted the brutal stuff, and it wasn't really brutal. And then I kind of just switched out to doing other stuff, and I did other stuff in life. Me and my girlfriend wrote this book called Shadow Tech, and I got other interests in life, including Jungian psychology. So this book is kind of a Jungian psychology, kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
And I did that. I did my studio.
Yeah, and mastering throughout all this has never stopped.
I've been doing mastering the whole time, mainly for death metal bands.
I mean, by the way, you haven't mentioned how someone can get a hold of you. We were talking about promos in the beginning. If someone wants mastering, how do they get a hold of you?
imperialmastering.com.
Boom.
That's it. So if you guys want to, you can put that in the description or whatever. But
yeah, totally.
Yep. So that's going on, and I'm just kind of like looking. If something good comes up, I'll take it. And I'm not really looking that hard, and I'm kind of a little bit disenfranchised with the underground death metal scene, and Cannibal's not calling me back or whatever. I got no management. I can't find any management. I can't find any record label that's bigger than what I had, and so I'm kind of just chilling, and I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know. Something's going to happen with the band again in the future. I'm not really writing that much music, and I kind of found out what most musicians go through. Most of your favorite musicians, whether it's Slayer or Iron Maiden or whatever, most of your favorite musicians, they have a curve of productivity and originality.
Sure.
And when I was prolific, and I'm just like, I couldn't understand that. I'm just like, I'm going to keep creating this stuff forever.
Yeah.
And just coming out and everything. And then when it stops coming out so fast, and you're like, I just can't think of anything. Or you just end up repeating yourself. Then you kind of slow down with the production side of it. And then you kind of run into just like, oh, this is what happened to Judas Priest when they put out Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is what happened with Megadeth when they put out Risk.
Yeah.
Or this is what happened with Metallica when they put out Saint Anger.
Right.
The crowd just is like, okay, this is kind of cheesy. We'll try to they don't really identify with it like they did like the previous stuff. It's kind of
not only that, it's just hitting a wall. You
hit a wall.
What do you think about the snare tone on Saint Anger?
I don't even have to give you my opinion. Yeah. We all but that's what happened, and I got to live through what it feels like to actually become less prolific and have less ideas, and it takes more work and concentration to come up with the original material. Although I found that I could do it if I switched styles.
Yeah.
So I had some. So I have another project called the O1 Experience, and that Metamorphosis was kind of another style. I now have a project called Deprogrammatrix on the side, And so if I can still play metal, but other kinds of metal, I can find that I can still be original. But I'm having a hard time being original and staying in that same mold of that third wave death metal.
Totally makes sense, dude. Totally does.
So that's what happened, and nothing really happened. And then in 2019, I kind of just said, I want to do something fun, man. Let's put the band back together, and started looking out for guys. And I actually got a couple festivals in Europe. We're going to play this one thing called Dreamer Fest in France, and we're going to play the. Oh yeah, I was dreaming. And then there was the Netherlands Death Fest. We got the Netherlands Death Fest. We're going to play that.
Is that Neurotic Death Fest? Was that the old Neurotic Death Fest, or is that something different now?
It's called Netherlands Death Fest. It was a death fest that they had in the south of Holland that they've had for like 10 years or something like that. It's been going on there. And it later became run by the same guys that run Maryland Death Fest.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, they're spreading that shit throughout the planet. Dude.
And so they had that going. We were going to play that. This is 2019. We have our tickets. I got a band put together. Everybody's in. And Tyson was going to play drums. We're going to fly him out. And nice. Justin was going to play guitar, and Mike. Oh yeah. Then there's Mike Pajone. See, I just keep forgetting people because it's like, the best thing to do with this is just go through the Wikipedia page or whatever and go through every musician. It's actually on vilewarriors.com. If you go to vilewarriors.com, every musician is listed. And I could have just done that, gone through the whole story. Because Mike Pajone, he's from Monstrosity, and later Mike joined Monstrosity. And Mike did some tours with us. He did the European tours. He did the Japan tour. He's a fantastic guy, great bass player, does a lot of albums. And so Mike was going to play bass. And I think who was going to be the singer? A guy named Flo, who's from a band called
Crytopsy, right?
No, Balance of not that. Balance of Cryptopsy?
No, just kidding. I tried to announce it differently.
Laughing because I was like, wait, there's another Flo in death metal?
Yeah, another Flo drummer.
And
no, he's a vocalist, dude.
Oh shit! I thought it was someone that sold
the drummer.
That's why we're giggling at you right now.
Yeah, this guy's a singer, and he's from a band called Balance of Terror. It's a French band. So there's a group of northern Frenchmen who are now going to be getting involved in Vile. And so,
hell yeah.
But I had that put together. That was 2019. I had my tickets, and then the whole COVID garbage started. And so all those things got canceled just a few weeks before we were supposed to fly out. The whole thing got canceled. Everything got scrapped. I was not willing to go try it again in 2021. I said, no, I'm not doing nothing. I'm going to wait it out. We're going to really wait for this thing to get done with. And so now we're going to go play 2022 or 2023. We're going to play Obscene Extreme and some other stuff that I'm trying to hook up. And
that's a comeback that a lot of people have been waiting for, dude. Like we've been saying before, if we think about Cali death, Vile is always in the conversation, Yeah. And now that we're 20 years into it, Cali death is a influential aspect to the timeline of death metal, So of course, Vile should be.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is in the time is that in the 9 years that the band's been quiet, Vile is gone. It's actually because there's no new wave of extreme metal that's worth a damn, really. That's not a real wave, not a real culture. The last wave of death metal that was actually creating culture is the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. And there's of course there's new bands and stuff that have happened, but no real culture and no real movement that's taken the genre anywhere new. It's, there's novelty in there, people mixing styles and trying this or that gimmick, and then, but nothing really evolving the movement. And so what's happened is that now It's the bands that have if you're a new band, if you're a newer band, you don't, and the music business has crashed. There's nobody can make any money anymore. So basically, the bands, if you want to start a brand new extreme metal band right now, get signed to who, do what? Nothing's going to happen unless you have members that were already well known and are already bringing together signed people from something that's established and putting it through an established label. You're just going to be playing local, and that's just going to be all that's. There's nothing's going to happen. So the only bands that can do anything are the legacy bands, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now our bands, all of us, and we're all legacy bands now.
Right.
And so basically you can get stuff now that you can get festivals. 10 years ago, I couldn't get festivals. I can get festivals now because I'm a legacy act.
Right.
And I can like this small one happening in Houston, I can co-headline. I can just, I just go right into the scene and have a privileged position basically. And I can't, get on with, I can't go support Behemoth or Nile or whatever and get on the bus or whatever right now. But if I stick to it and stay with it, I can. But so a new thing has happened where a lot of the bands that were struggling before, if they made a dent in the scene, if they're known as an originator band, those are legacy bands now, and they're wanted and they can do stuff that they couldn't do before.
Nostalgia is a seller now in current times.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally love nostalgia. I always go back to the 90s, know, but now the newer generation, there is a percentage of them that are like, oh, and me too. I can go back even further. I'm born in 84. I can go back further and further and further because I'm on that cusp where I can still I can connect with stuff that was popular, or not even popular, but just stuff that was being made before I was born. And I think that there is this like level of nostalgia that is we don't want things to die, dude. We don't want things to go away, and even the kids who didn't experience it themselves want to keep it alive. And like Joseph was saying earlier, there is now this old school death metal genre where people are trying to recreate what was happening back in those times, you know? And that just shows that in the zeitgeist, there is this nostalgia effect of like wanting to keep things alive and kicking. And what's a better reminder than bringing bands out from those earlier eras and showing everybody what's up, like this is what we were doing back then and we're still doing it for you now, dude.
All genres are experiencing this. Like, so you have all these 70s bands, 80s bands, whatever they were, everybody had whatever their peak was. Let's say it's Loverboy and Pat Benatar or Bad Company or whatever 70s, 80s bands or whatever. They're going to be getting squashed in the 90s when grunge and everything else is coming out. They're not going to be, they're going to be getting squashed. And then all of a sudden, after being gone for 20 years, all those people are like, they're getting into their 50s and 60s, and they want to go see the bands that they grew up with. And then all of a sudden, those bands, you look out there, and all those 70s bands, the 70s bands are getting old now. The Bruce Springsteen and the Bob Seger and all those guys are getting
still out there.
But the 80s guys, the 80s guys, they're out there, and these are all the legacy acts. And now it's happening for obviously the British heavy metal bands. They've been riding it, but they're getting very old now. But now it's time for people. There's one one group that's older than me. That's the original guys. That's the Morbid Angel guys, and
Right.
the guys from Death, and Steve DiGiorgio and Gene Hoglan, and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are set. They can make a living as musicians right now. They're legacy artists.
Totally.
And now it's kind of moving into where even extreme metal bands that were just small bands that were, but as long as they made a dent, as long as they're part of the culture,
Right.
you're on Unique Leader, or you were on Relapse, or you were on, then you're a cult classic now, and you can do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Totally,
and
dude.
so that's where I'm at right now. And so because of that situation, because I can actually do that, then I'm like, okay, well, I can do Vile that way. I can put together bands. I can go do, this next year, I'm gonna stay in Europe for a month, and I'm just gonna stay there, and I'm gonna stay with friends, and then every weekend I'm gonna play a different fest.
Nice.
And I'm just going to get my guys to drive or take the train out to the fest. We're going to have some practices when I first get there. Everybody's going to go their own way, and then we're going to meet up on the weekend in Czech Republic, and then we're going to meet up over here in Germany, and then we're going to meet up, and we're going to do four shows, 3 or 4 festivals, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to be like, okay, well, the band's going, it's doing stuff, but I don't have to do the whole grind of eating peanut butter on the van.
Yeah. Shout out to Thomas and Profanity. They showed me this year that the festival circuit over in Europe is something that is something you can't experience that in the United States.
No.
Profanity literally hit so many different festivals this summer, and it was it's a grind for them to get out to each one of those, but they still made it, and it's an opportunity that isn't here.
That's legit music to them, though. That's like, here it's kind of like this weird avant-garde, weird style of music, like metal and stuff. Like there, it's like part of their culture. Like that's like, like what I mean? That's like their 100,000 people festivals and stuff. That's normal. That's normal for them. Like for us, like if we have one of those in America for 1 year, one time, it's like biggest festival for metal and ever. You know what I mean? For their festival seasons, like it's like 9 of those. It's like,
so if you any of you guys on here now, if you want to do this, you can play a handful of festivals in Europe, and you can play a handful of festivals in America. In summer you're in Europe, and then the rest of the year you're here, and you're literally playing like 8 shows a year, and you're in the scene. You have notoriety. You're out there. You're playing. And you're on posters, and people know that you're out there, and you're in the world of music, and you're only playing 8 shows a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can do that now,
right?
And it's inexpensive. You can do it. So that's for me. That's why I'm getting back into it, is because it can be done much more efficiently now with this whole festival thing.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Colin, we're at almost.
Thanks for having me.
Time,
yeah. No, I know. And I got to go too. My girlfriend's in there cooking dinner, and so.
No, that's fine. Dude,
we'll do the wrap up.
This has been so rad, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's great seeing you guys again. Yeah,
no doubt, dude. And
nice to meet you, man.
Again,
cool.
Hit up vilewarriors.com.
Right.
For the main hub, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then for Imperial Mastering, imperialmastering.com.
Yep, that's it.
And then on the socials, where do you want anybody to hit?
There is an Instagram page. I don't use it, but it's there. People can like it. I can't even get Instagram to work. I can't even get my picture to freaking stay up there. It's
all good. So then,
but Facebook, there's a Facebook page called facebook.com/vile death metal.
Yeah, I tagged it in my little.
I do use Facebook, and I have a Facebook profile, Colin Davis Metal Master. So I do use Facebook. I truthfully, guys, the whole social media thing, that's another thing we won't talk about today, but it's just so fucking lame. I mean, it's great as a phone book. You can look people up, you can message somebody. It's great.
Yeah, it's a whole rat race, like trying to figure out like where things your posts don't get like show up and stuff. And,
but we love your music, man, and we love
dude.
We love our tour memories. We love everyone you've done.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. And thanks. For sure,
definitely.
Dude. Vile is an imprint that always came at me early in my exposure to Cali death metal, and I'll always cherish that. Dude,
I'm cutting everyone off real quick.
It was a moment. Max, it was a movement. Yep.
Max from Anomalous is 40th birthday right now, so you guys are getting raided right now for that. But
continue. Shit, dude. Max from Anomalous, shout out, dude. Happy 40th, dude.
Yeah, tell him happy 40th when you guys get in the chat.
I'm turning 40.
I will, dude. For sure, dude.
Who's turning 40 tomorrow?
Our friend Max.
I see. Yeah, I don't know him, or I don't know him.
Yeah, he's a super shredder. He's actually very prominent on Twitch. And what's funny is he started his Twitch after he came on our show, and it's just flourishing now, dude.
And he's the one. He literally wanted. He told us, you guys should try it. I think it's a thing. Blah blah. I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna try it. And he tried it and did really well. And it started from Scott from Fallujah and Justin from Zenith Passage, and a lot of these people are doing it. But
and shout out to Nate too. He was in this chat. I shout out him pretty much as much as I can. But Colin, check if you got your pen, write this down.
Yep.
Ontogeny. ONT.
Anomalous too.
JGE.
Yeah, ontogeny. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, dude. So that's Max and Nate. Well, actually, no. Anomalous was Max and Nate. Sorry. Nate is ontogeny is his. Marco was in on Anomalous.
Oh, okay. I've heard of ontogeny, but I was going to ask you real quick. Have you heard this band? Let me try to find it back here. It's it showed up on what is this Pandora that I use? This band that's called. Oh man. Oh, here it is, right here. Archetype.
I heard of them.
No, that's not the band. It's called Archspire.
Archspire, yeah.
Yeah. They're insane.
Hell yeah, dude.
They're one of my favorite new bands, yeah.
But it's all put together in the computer.
Yeah.
With Dave Otero. Yeah, he records them. He's done the last 2 albums.
Right, so there's all these 30-second note double bass parts that no one can play, and the vocals are all on top of each other. No one could actually do that. I like it, though. I like it. I think it sounds cool, but I'm like, what are they doing live?
Dude, I'll say it. They kind of deliver, man.
They do?
Sick. Yeah, I don't think they hit everything with the same velocity as the recording, but I mean, they have a reputation as a really good live band. I've seen.
Oh, they do.
Times. I've opened for them. They're pretty sick, dude.
Yeah, it comes on this thing here. It comes on Pandora. I hear it, and I'm like, that is insane. And and it's very slick production and all that stuff. But I think
they sold out. They sold out one of the biggest venue in Santa Cruz, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
What's the okay? So what? We recently on a few episodes ago, we got introduced to the AI. Oh, Zach.
Oh yeah. I've been listening to that a lot lately.
So is that based on the Archspire shit though? That's
don't even go down this. This is another
AI music. A computer that writes music.
It's going. It's been going for how
24
many
hours for a year or two. And just constantly playing.
They just fed it an Archspire album, and then it just pumps out.
Oh wow! So I saw the artwork. I ran that. What's that thing called? Do you know the artwork creator one?
I've seen that.
Dude,
sure.
Colin, if we tuned in right now, there would be a song playing that has still been going.
What's it called? I want to look it up.
What is it?
Just
called?
type in AI Archspire.
I think it's Involuntary Doppelganger is one of their songs.
Something like that. Just make sure it's live. It'll tell you if it's live or not. If it's live, then
it's been literally going for a couple of years.
They have a Meshuggah stream also, I think.
I heard a gent one, and they're making all these progressive rhythms, the AI is making crazier rhythms and these bands are doing now. And I'm like, bands are just gonna listen to him now, just be like, oh, I'm gonna take that.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing. I was like, I got a couple ideas on this. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, with the artwork, I was thinking I could make my next art like this, But
I know. That's an idea for sure. People are doing it.
It's all weird.
Actually, Mike Rabovchek, he used it because he's an artist, right?
He's a great artist.
He's a great artist, and he used it, and he pumped out something that's better than anything I could pump out. He knew how to tweak it and make it look freaking awesome what he did. Totally. So maybe I'll have to have him do that. Okay, guys. Yeah, fantastic. And
Colin, dude, this was really fucking cool, dude. We had a great time tonight.
Keep me in the loop. Man. If anybody needs mastering, give me a call. And
please do.
Yep.
Anybody who's listening, you want to hook? We already gave all the plugs,
Imperial Mastering.
Yep.
Yeah, Imperial Mastering. Yep. That's it. Yeah, good talking to you guys.
Good to see you, man. It's been a long time. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Colin.
You too. Well, I'm out here in Texas, so I guess I don't know when I'll see you guys, but
yeah, for sure.
We could virtually hang. It's all good. Battleforgecoffee.com. What did I say? First off 20.
Oh,
that's
right.
What it was, dude.
Battleforge, just the Deeds guys, right?
Coupon code.
Yeah.
Yep. Coupon code first off 20. You get 20% off for National Coffee Day. I think until October 1st, guys. So
I'm gonna have to ask Jacoby what kind of coffee that is, or where that's comes
or
from.
Mike,
Mike, is it Mexican or what is it? So I want to find out. I pretty much only drink African coffees.
Dude, Ethiopian coffee is the best coffee, dude.
Best. Other Kenyan, African, Rwandan. Those are all.
You sound like amazing. IPA nerds. Jesus Christ.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
I literally have not had anything crazier and more flavorful than Ethiopian blends.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's super good. No, I get it.
So
what about real quick before we end? I want to. What's that one copy that the monkey shits it out and everyone like spends a ton of money for it?
No way.
It's not a monkey. It's not a monkey. It's like a cat type or like a.
It's a marsupial or something. It's something where the certain animal eats these beans.
It's all. I hear it's kind of fucking just
guano, dude.
Shit, dude.
Have you seen the
but they literally
guano.
They eat.
That's a creamer,
coffee.
dude. Is guano.
They eat because coffee is actually a fruit.
The
bean is the seed inside of a fruit.
Yes.
And those animals eat the fruit as it's fresh. Wow. And then they absorb everything just like we would,
Yeah.
If you eat a strawberry, you're shitting out those seeds.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, those aren't gonna get broken down.
Wow.
So it literally, I mean, the whole point of a plant and fruit and that is being eaten, think about this, guys. We need fertilizer to make produce and all that. So what's the fertilizer? It's shit.
Yes.
So nature has made like this plant has made a thing for an animal to eat, and then they absorb everything that they need, and then the seed gets shit out with its shit, and then it's on the ground. That's new plants, guys.
Yeah.
It's a package deal that comes out of the anus of a fucking animal.
Yeah, they're
I'm just kidding.
But it really is, dude. It's like, it's so fucking crazy that evolution.
I should have held through with that. Just like the anus of an animal just ended. God damn it. That would have been
dude.
Amazing.
That's true. Though
stuck through it.
It gets planted as a full package. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That reminded me. There's one more last thing. Is there will be a new Vile song next year. So we didn't talk about this. We'll do this next time. How about this? You already have a bunch of albums out already, right? You're not really making money selling albums with your record label. And maybe you don't even have a big enough record label to really even matters being on a label anymore, right? So why are you putting all the energy into putting 10 songs out? And then you get to put one or two of them on your live set. Because you can't
do one or two. People are touring on one song. They release one song and they're touring on them now.
Yeah.
Well, once you get a rep, so like it's say I want to play a headliner slot and I want to play for an hour, and that's going to be 14 songs, right? Well, out of those 14 songs, about 10 of them, 12 of them, I have to play old songs. I only have room for a couple new songs. So look at Cannibal. They have all these albums out. They got whole albums where not even one song's played.
Right.
So why do I want to put all that energy and everything into putting out 10 songs albums? Why don't I just put out 1 or 2 new songs every year?
Yeah. Hey, that's the climate of
that's
the
where we're
current
at
day too. And that makes sense too with how you're presenting it.
And dollars.
There's enough Vile songs to already fill a lengthy set.
Yeah, and I have to play those songs. People want those songs.
Right.
So I only have so much room, and as I keep going, it's like Megadeth or whatever. They just put out a new album. They're going to put 2 songs on their whole set, and then next year when they put their next album out, 1 song of this album.
That's already been like what I was like kind of thinking that was going to be the way things go because of how I was like an album would drop and then I was over it after a week because of all the information I get and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now bands are doing the thing that I was thinking was going to happen is like you drop 1 song at a time for like months and then you tour on that.
Yes.
It's like that band Polyphia. They'll tour like a sold out tour off 1 new song.
Yes.
And then they'll release another song.
They have existing songs to fill the tour from
exactly.
Right.
But then when they release another song, it's like another album came out, for the promotion.
Yes. That's what we need to do now.
That's what's happening. It's already happening. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. For existing band, if you're a brand new band, you have no material out. You kind of have to put out a full album.
Yeah, put out a thing where everyone get used to you and stuff. But
yeah, and you need to develop your sound over a period of years and all that. But for bands like for all of us, it's like just put out 1 and then just make it a music video. Put 1 new song.
Yeah, put all the money into that, and then
boom.
That's it. That's what I'm doing. Yep.
All right, Colin.
Okay,
Thanks
guys.
for hanging out, dude. I love you, buddy.
You too.
Dude.
See you guys soon. Call me back anytime.
For sure, man.
No doubt, dude. And hit up all those places we talked about, and we'll see you next week.
All right.